Good evening. It is the Dania Beach City Commission regular meeting. It is Tuesday, May 28, 2019 at 7 o'clock p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Mayor Llewellyn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Here.
Commissioner Brandemart.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
City Manager Garcia.
Here.
City Attorney Ansborough.
Here.
Thank you.
Can you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? And would you please also, we'd like to observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Next item is presentations and special event approvals. The first item is a presentation by Michael Carey from Kimley Horn on the rehabilitation of the north runway of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport.
Joe, can you assist, please? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Carey. I'm with Kimley Horn Associates. And tonight with the county, we have Mark Gambrell, Chief Development Officer, and also Gasser Duget, who is our project manager. What we wanted to do is just to take a few minutes and brief you on our project that will be starting here soon, the north runway rehabilitation, the thought process, the schedule, and why are we doing that, why are we doing it now. So a little public information for you. So just to kind of give you tee up a little factoids about the airport. As I think everybody here knows, the airport is booming. It's a reflection of the economy. A lot of people are traveling. The port's busy. The airport last year in 2018, there were 35.9 million passengers passed through the airport, which was a 10.6% growth year over year. For those of you that follow that kind of thing, you usually see 2, 3, 4% growth in airports. So 10% growth at an airport is really staggering. Fort Lauderdale has now passed Philadelphia, as well as LaGuardia in traffic and passengers, which is quite a milestone. Fort Lauderdale is now one of the 20 busiest airports in the U.S. Last year alone, 21 new destinations or markets were extended. I think if you go by the airport and if you're a plane watcher like I am, you'll see British Airways and Azul and some of the other airlines that you never saw before that used to fly into Miami or still do fly into Miami, but they're now flying into Fort Lauderdale. But Fort Lauderdale really developed its growth through the low-cost carriers. JetBlue, Southwest, and Spirit are 65% of the traffic at Fort Lauderdale. So, as most everybody knows, today we have 2 runways at the airport. We have the brand new runway, the south runway, which was opened in 2016. And we have the north runway, 10 left, 28 right, which is the one we were going to be working on for this project. There used to be a third crosswind runway, but that was decommissioned several years ago to make way for the south runway. So the north runway, the one we're going to be working on, is in the original alignment that the military developed back in 1942. The runway has been extended, strengthened, rehabbed, improved multiple times over the years by various contractors, engineers, planners, FAA design guidelines, specifications, and that sort of thing. So basically we've got to the point that the runway really does need some work for various reasons. And so we've been in the planning and programming and design mode for probably better part of 5 years for this project. It's been 15 years since there's been any last major work on the airport. If you remember, we did this back in 2004, more or less. It was a mill and overlay. And the reason we're doing it now is that, for multiple reasons, but this runway was the only active runway for 18 months while the south runway was developed. The runway needs structural, drainage, safety, lighting, and signage upgrades. The FAA advisory circulars and design guidelines have changed over the years, so there's a lot of improvements that we need to make improvements for this project. And the design that we've selected, hopefully, will get us out of the 15-year cycle. The runway itself is made out of asphalt. We're going to convert portions of that to concrete, which is a more durable product. It's more expensive, but we're going to convert it to concrete and hopefully increase the cycle between major rehabilitations to 30 years instead of 15, for a variety of reasons. So the benefits of the project are we're going to decrease the cycles, the runway safety enhancements. For those of you familiar with the airport and the runway, at both ends of the runway we have engineered material arresting systems at both ends, or EMAS systems. They're basically just styrofoam blocks in case aircraft overrun or underrun the runway. Those are 15 years old. They're very expensive, and we are going to replace those as part of the project as well. We're going to revise the runway geometry connecting points from the taxiways so that we reduce incursions. And we're going to just generally improve the lighting and signage of the runway. We're going to LED lighting as an example. And then finally, we're going to improve the drainage there. The airport gets dinged on a regular basis from the FAA for standing water around the airport. And we're also going to raise the center line of the runway about 6 inches, depending on what future sea level rise brings. Okay, so here's the project. The runway is there in yellow along the center line. We're going to be improving both Taxiway Alpha, which is on the north side, and Taxiway Bravo on the south side, and all the connecting points there. You can see the old crosswind runway elements. We're going to try to get rid of most of those as far as the project as well. Here's a cross section of the runway. You can see there in the center. We're going to cut out all the old asphalt and we're going to put in a concrete keel section. That should improve the overall rideability, the cross slope, and the life of the runway, so hopefully we won't be standing here in front of you in the next 10 to 15 years doing it again. It's more expensive. It takes a little longer to do, but in the end we think it's a very good idea. We went through, I think, 8 different options of what to do. And the south runway is built out of concrete, so that was one of the factors associated as well. So overall phasing, the project has started. We gave the contractor a notice to proceed back in March. He started in our phase 2, which was the Taxiway Alpha work in purple. The runway will be closed on June the 3rd at 12:01 for 120 days. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have incentives for early completion, and we also have damages, very heavy damages for a late finish. Through the design of the project, we looked at variable lengths of construction time because we do know that will impact not only the airlines but the citizens and residents around the airport. We settled on 150. And through further evaluation, got it down to 120 calendar days. The contractor has submitted schedules to have the runway open in 100 days. He wants the bonus. The bonus is $75,000 a day. So he's shooting for the $1.5 million bonus for the project. So we're optimistic. We're at least glad that he is optimistic that he can get it done in the allotted time. And we think he probably can do that. So, as I mentioned, we awarded the project back in February. We've started the work, and we will again begin the work on June the 3rd. The contractor schedule shows a completion on September the 11th, our runway reopening. He has the 120 days, which will actually show about an end of September completion. We have other work to do. So that work will go on into March of next year, but the runway will be reopened back up. So here's just a picture of the beginning of the project, the phase 2. It's pretty boring if you're not an engineer or a contractor, but you can see we've been out there since middle of March or late March, beginning paving and setting up new geometry for our new connecting taxiways for the project. So in summary, the project cost, if anybody wants to know, is $64 million. Funded partially by FAA and FDOT funds as well as county funds. 4 months of runway closure hopefully will cut that down. And it's been locally planned, designed, and constructed with folks here in Broward County. As I said, we've been at this for about 5 years as far as the planning. We've been meeting with the airlines for about 8 months now. They're fully aware of everything that we're doing. They've signed off on our phasing, our construction length, the project cost, all of those kind of things. And we have local contractors doing the work. I think the only non-local contractor is the paving contractor who does airport-only concrete paving. So with that, we can answer any questions you may have. There's going to be a website set up. There's a noise hotline, and then Mark and Gas are here if anybody has any specific questions as well.
Vice Mayor.
With the difference between the asphalt and the concrete, is there any difference in the sound?
Difference in sound? I don't think so. I think it would be marginal. It's aircraft noise. It's not going to be really the pavement that it rides on.
Okay, no difference then. Thank you.
Commissioner Brandon-Marty.
You say no difference. Did you already test this somewhere?
There's both. No, ma'am. I mean, I don't think.
So you really don't know that answer, right?
I don't know that answer.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something, okay?
Okay.
The only thing that would bring this amount of people into this room again is if there was a difference, and I'll tell you why. I lived next door to her. For 1 decibel or 2, she got money for noise mitigation. I didn't. That 1 decibel or 2 might make the difference as to whether I should come back to you again and say, look, now I meet that. What are you going to do about it? No thinking. Fast answer.
All I can tell you from an engineering perspective, there is no difference in asphalt and concrete as far as aircraft traveling on it. Okay.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm not happy with that answer.
Okay.
Because of what the reason I gave, and I wish. Did you bring anybody else with you?
Yes, I did, but I don't know that they can answer the question. But they
can't answer that question either. Well. I don't. No more.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Wait a minute. I'm not finished. I can't help this. When I get on something, sir, I'm known not to let it go. It's sort of like a pit bull. All right. I want you to come back with an answer.
Okay.
To satisfy my residents that live out there. They have a right to know whether there's going to be a difference. We have paid so much money for noise mitigation attorneys. I want to know. I know your money's. But I want to know now what it means for those residents out there, especially out at Malaluca and more west than there. You have to come back with an answer, or I'm not. Is this a voting issue? No. All right, good. But anyway, I want an answer. Please bring it back. That's my opinion. I don't know how you all feel about it.
I have questions.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
I have some questions for you also, and Mr. Gambrell might be able to answer them as well. First of all, I am glad to hear that you have significant incentives to get the work done faster.
Yes.
So that it takes less time, and that there are also damages, potential damages if they don't get done on time.
Correct.
What are those damages? What are the fines?
$150,000 a day.
Per day?
Per day.
Beyond the 120?
Beyond the 120.
Okay. You mentioned about raising the runway to help with the drainage issues?
Yes, well, there's multiple reasons, but that's the primary reason.
Okay. By doing that, is that potentially going to impact other surrounding areas as far as drainage is concerned? I see him shaking his head.
No, no.
Okay.
No, what's happened in layman's terms, is the runway's been beat to death for all these years, so it doesn't have the crown and the cross slope that it needs to have. And
Okay.
so in order to do that, reestablish it, we're not rebuilding the whole thing, we're just doing the center 75 feet. So we raised it in order to recreate the cross slope needed.
Okay, to basically even it out?
It's
Or
actually
no?
on a pitch, so that it's like a road, it drains off to the side.
Okay. Is there anything that you all are doing or working with the airlines in any way in order to help mitigate the amount of noise that's going to impact the homes surrounding the airport? Because now you're going from having 2 runways that are open to having 1. And there are thousands of homes that those planes land over every day. I am one of them, as a matter of fact. And that's going to increase. Not everybody does have the sound mitigation because they didn't all qualify for it. So my concern is that, have you looked into addressing flight patterns, things like that, in order to try to mitigate the number of flights that are actually going to come directly over the homes in that area?
I can tell you that the airlines have been asked to cut back on the number of flights during the period just because of the capacity issues and delays associated with that. I don't know what their commitment has been, but there has been conversations about that with the airlines.
Has there been any discussion about potential penalties that can occur if they don't try to mitigate this in some way?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, is that something that you could do?
We could find out. Oh,
Try to negotiate
Oh,
with
I
them.
don't know. I don't know, but we could find out.
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody that couldn't try to negotiate with them to try to mitigate this as much as possible, because it's going to disrupt thousands of people
We understand.
for 3, 4, 5 months, potentially. So
And what we can say is that we've looked at this very, very closely and tried our best to design a project that we could do as quickly as possible that would have the minimum amount of time impact to the residents and give us a long-term solution, because we don't want to be back in 15 years.
is there somebody that the residents can contact other than Winston? I know everybody knows Winston that lives in that area, and they contact him regularly when there is a problem with the noise. Is there anybody else that may be available that they can also contact? Because I'm sure he can only take so many emails and phone calls and texts and whatnot. Is there somebody else available that we can address these questions with?
I mean, it would be myself, Mark Ambrose, and then also
You
Monica.
gotta come up.
Hi, name is Mark Ambrose, Chief Development Officer. Would be myself and also Monica Capilouto. We've been working on the noise mitigation program. The one thing I like to do, if you don't mind, give you a little update on the existing noise mitigation program. When I came here about 1.5 years ago to this commission to give you an update, at the time we had about 600 homes completed and about 50 closings. Since then, at this time, we've got about 1,027 homes that are mitigated. There's 30 homes that right now are substantially completed. We have another 57 right now in construction, and we're left with about 110 homes. By end of July, they should be all completed in terms of the RSI. In terms of the conveyance and release program, we had 639 homeowners that are in that program at the time. We've completed 504 closings. We have 135 more closings, and I believe in the next 2-3 weeks I have 10 scheduled. And then the balance right now are in the process with our county attorney, meeting with, we're working with the city, looking at liens and all that. So the goal is to get those closings completed. So that's where we are with the existing noise mitigation program.
Well, what I'm hearing from that, though, is also that means that there's about 200 homes that have not been mitigated and will not be completed until likely by July.
There'll be 86 on June 3rd, and we've already contacted all the homeowners. We've already, I have a full list of, we've scheduled the June 3rd, we have 11 home starts. June 10th, 9. June 17th, we have 9. June 24th, 14, July 1st, 13 home starts, July 8th, 8, 15, July 15th would be 6, July 22nd, 6, and July 29th, 6, which gives you 82 homeowners, and that's the balance that will be completed.
Right,
But
but-
we're working hard to.
And
to
I
make
understand that,
happen.
but those all take time to do. I mean, they
Absolutely.
take, it's not like it gets done in a day or two. It takes weeks in some
10 days.
cases. It takes longer than that in
Yeah.
some cases. I've had
Yeah.
people that have told me it's taken them 40 days. So my concern is that you're going to have people that have not had mitigation that are going to be living with this excessive, it will be excessive, and more than it is now, amount of noise for at least a month or two, possibly 3.
And what I'll do with that, I'll take note of that because we've been thinking about that, and I will follow up with you on that commitment because there's some things that we've been working on because, again, this is from the previous program, from the South Runway. We want to get this thing done. And again, we fully understand on June 3rd, those 83 homes won't be completed. And our goal is to get it done. And I'll follow up with you on that component.
I'd like you to come back to the meeting again after this has already started and
Yeah.
give us an update as to what's going on, and maybe some of the people here will
Absolutely.
have some information for you as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Brandon Marty? Oh, I had you. Do you have yours on?
I do, actually. Just thinking back in regards to what Commissioner Brandon Mart said and what you had mentioned, Mayor, to mitigate the impact on our residents, particularly now June, July, and August, that the kids are out of school, are you looking at all at the departures and arrivals? I mean, I've flown out of there at 6:30 a.m. and at 7 a.m., and I know how much that's going to impact our residents very, very early in the morning when they're trying to sleep or very, very late at night. So just based on some of the conversations that I've had with our residents, is that something that you could look into or the team could look into in regards to departure and arrivals very, very early and very, very late at night that would really be very impactful in regards to the quality of life of our residents?
There's also going to be overnight flights because the internationals will be going through there as well.
Yeah, yes, we can look into that. We're not prepared to talk about that tonight. That's more of an FAA controls airspace, so we could get some information and bring that back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.
Okay. Next presentation is Dania Beach Clergy Alliance. Pastor Paul Wiggins, President.
Mayor Llewellyn, Vice Mayor Argument. Do I need to pick it up? All right. Certainly I am, Reverend Paul Wiggins, pastor of the Greater Mount Zion AME Church here in Dania, but I stand tonight as the president of the Dania Beach Clergy Alliance. And I want to say to commissioners and staff and all who are here, I am delighted to stand on behalf of a great group of people. And if it's okay with the commission, I would like for some of my colleagues to join with me as we make this presentation.
Sure.
You
Sure.
can leave my cane here. I'll be all right without my cane. No. Doc, you better get that.
I'll leave it there. Yeah. All right. I'll be all right in about another 2 minutes. All right, all right.
Again, thank you for this opportunity to present this outstanding organization. The Alliance is an ecumenical nonprofit organization formed to operate for religious, charitable, and educational activities that fall within the scope of 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. And the primary purposes of the Alliance are to heighten the moral and ethical culture of the Dania Beach community, to develop community programs that will aid citizens with socioeconomic and political resources and awareness, to assist in the overall educational development of low to moderate income families in the community by providing educational empowerment in the form of financial and economic events such as workshops, classes, etc. And then to ensure that the youth in the community are empowered through intentional programming and mentorship opportunities. Now, what does all of that mean? It means that the Alliance looks forward to developing partnerships with the City of Dania Beach political and business leaders. It means that the Alliance will engage fully in the growth initiatives planning within the city to ensure that there is equity in investment in all communities and in all people, with a particular focus on the designated CRA redevelopment plan. It means that the Alliance stands in support of the CRA's at-home Dania Beach program with a focus on residential housing development. It means we applaud the recent 14th Avenue groundbreaking and beautification event, which comprised the initial building of 6 new single-family homes, as well as the improvement and beautification of several existing homes. Job well done. It means the Alliance strongly supports and encourages our political leaders to give strong consideration to establishing a business district within the CRA redevelopment plan area with a focus on supporting small and minority-owned businesses. It means that the Alliance strongly encourages our political leaders to give strong consideration to establishing meaningful opportunities, internships, jobs, recreational, and other educational means for our young people in the community. And again, on behalf of my colleagues and the congregations we are privileged to pastor, we thank you for this opportunity and look forward to partnering with and getting in the trenches with all of you. And with that said, on June 8th, the Alliance is sponsoring a Can We Talk community forum, where it's a listening tour where we're inviting residents from the community to come out to the C.W. Thomas Park. Let us hear from you in terms of what you all are expecting as residents, so that we can further develop our agenda for this year and beyond. With that, again, we say thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Commissioner Brandon-Marty?
Hi there, Pastor.
How you doing? It's so good to see you.
I know,
you the other
same
day.
here, hon.
You feeling better?
I feel much better.
Good.
Listen, I was wondering, between me and you, do you think they can introduce themselves? Yes. Hello?
If they give me $5, they can own it. No, I'm just kidding.
Pony up. Pony up. The
Absolutely.
only,
Right.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
would love for them to do that.
Absolutely.
Sir, go ahead.
So everybody knows who everybody is.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Board of Commissioners and all of our city leaders. I'm Reverend Gregory Pope from Bethel Baptist Church, right up the streets here, and been here for a while, but now we have again engaged this political and religious dialogue. We started under the tenure of Tamara James, and unfortunately I wasn't able to be here, but I'm grateful that I'm back, Tamara. God bless you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Manager, Clerk. My name is Pastor Ricky. I pass that Bible way, right on 1st and 7th, up under the big tree. Thank you.
I'm Pastor Lucius Hall, Senior Pastor for the Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist Church here in the great city of Dania Beach.
I'm Assistant Pastor of Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist Church, and my name is John Boston.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's a plum pleasing pleasure to be here. Certainly I'm not a pastor, but certainly in lieu of the fact that we're absent of a pastor, I'm chairman of the Deacon Board for St. Ruth Missionary Baptist Church, so I'm standing in that stead tonight. And certainly with these pastors of churches here, I want to just say this, and I'm not looking to become a pastor. I have enough on my plate just at the church. But some time ago, and certainly due to no one's sort of being involved with that, but some time ago we had a epiphany, you want to call it that, and that was to bring about the fact of a clergy alliance in this city. And at the time, as a commissioner, I was trying to head start that. So some of these gentlemen were here at that time and was involved with one of the feedings here in the community where free food was given away and so forth. And that was to bring together of these churches. And the reason for that was the fact that all of these pastors here live outside of the community, but I believe maybe Ricky, you're in the community. We're in the community, only one. And therefore, hey, need to have a voice, and that voice. And President Wiggins said it well, or Pastor Wiggins said it well, and that is that a voice is to reach out within this community, the least, the lost, and the left out, those that are marginal and don't get an opportunity to maybe voice and come before you. And we want to work diligently with you. We believe that that's something that can bring about harmony. And we're not leaving out, and just not the Northwest, we're out west, but also we're looking forward to, and I know he would have said this, and that is to some of the churches on our east side as well to be involved. And so with that said, I'm going to step out of the way. I think most of you know me here, but anyhow, Pastor Sands.
Oh, you didn't give your name, though.
Yes.
I feel like I need a stepping stool. I'm the shortest one among you guys. So
Yeah, you are.
I'm Bob Sands. I am the pastor out of Community Bible Church, formerly Griffin Road Baptist Church. We're out at Southwest 30th Avenue and Griffin Road. I'm the secretary-treasurer, right?
Count the money.
Okay, Secretary-Treasurer of the Dania Beach Clergy Alliance. And then Dr. Sean Jarrett is our Vice President. He's unable to be with us tonight for good reason. His son is graduating, so he sends his regards. So I just want to thank you all. We've been working on this kind of stuff for years. I think the senior one up here, Pastor Pope and I both got off of the ark with Noah. We've been here so long in this city. It's been a long time. You were here 33 years. I came in 91. So it's we've been around here a little while and watched all of the changes and all of the stuff, and so we're here to work with you, to work with all of you to better the city as our president has already so wisely and so eloquently given. So we're glad to be here. Thank you for this opportunity tonight, and call us if you need us for anything. We'll be here.
Thank you.
Again, thank you. There are others who are part of our organization, but at the drop of a hat, pastors have to go different places at different times. So some were scheduled to be here tonight and could not, but we did want to show up and again say thank you for this opportunity and begin to set the stage for what we're going to be doing as an organization for the people. Thank you again, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no proclamations tonight. Next up is citizen comments. First up is Bobby H. Grace. I know I don't have to tell you, but please state your name and address and limited to 3 minutes.
Bobby H. Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue in the great city of Dania Beach. Let me just say that I am doubly proud of these gentlemen behind me, because this is something that we've been trying to do for a very long time, and I am elated that my young mayor, Tamara James, pushed them forward so that we started with the Dania Beach Can, and I understand that they're going to be participating in a lot of community activities, and that's what we really need. We really need that in our city. So let me just say a few things. Family and Fun Day was absolutely fantastic. And we had so many children there, and we had a kickball game. Chief, will you please come? Between BSO and the City of Dania Beach Parks and Recreation and Community, where we divvied up the team with our children and our adults. We gave them 17. We took 17, and we had an additional 30 left over, so we gave them to BSO because we figured they were going to really need the help, and they did. There were some people that said that there was some cheating going on at the game, and I said I didn't see any cheating whatsoever, and I was not involved in any cheating. And I don't know where that came from, except probably from Stallings and Huff, who were just could not take it good because they lost. And each time they came into the field, there was somebody saying that we had 2-1. And the next time we had 3-1. We were up to 10-1. And then they told me that we only had 2-1. That was the game. And I said, well, I'm the senior person, so it must take a little time for me to try to figure out numbers because it's been a while since I've been at Attucks Middle School and Attucks High School, and Robert Dunson taught me well in math, but I don't know who it was racking up the points there, but somebody was doing that. And make a long story short, we beat the pants off of them.
We got some practice to do for next year.
And they promised that they're going to come back very soon, and they're going to give us a run for our money. And that's what they're going to have to do because they didn't get any runs. So this is our trophy. We won. I did all the bases even when they put me out. And they said, what are you doing? I said, a runner never quits. And I ran all the bases, and then I counted that as a home run. And they said, you can't do that. I go, well, somebody explained the rules to me because that wasn't part of the rules. So I would like it for you to please pass this to Eric. Will you please come and pass it to our director? Because I want you to know how it feels to lose once.
Thank you. The torch.
That's what I like. Okay. I tell you, we had an absolutely marvelous time, and afterward we had lunch with each other, and we fellowshiped with each other, and it was just great. And what I liked about it, after we finished everything on the park, you couldn't even tell that we had activities there because my whole team cleaned up the park like it was when Public Works come out there. Everything was in place when we walked out of there. Now let's move to Saturday because I really want to tell you that.
And I know you do, but we got to move along. Well, so I'll give you a little leeway. But go ahead.
I was so proud of everybody that showed up at that function on Saturday. What I was most proud of is the residents that we did not paint their houses and we did not do beautification, that they came out and started working on their own homes while we were out there doing that. So this is really a plus for all of us. And the last thing, save the date, October 13th, breast cancer awareness at the Dania Highlight and Casino. I want to see you there. We're planning big things, and we need to support breast cancer awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Barbara Ringstad. Please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to about 3 minutes.
Okay, Barbara Ringstad, 3341 Southwest 44th Street in Dania Beach. And this is my second time talking. I'm going to get good at this by the time we're done. I am here because I am objecting to the supposedly two-story townhouses they're thinking about building on our street of one-story homes. I say supposedly two-story because there's going to be rooftop terraces on all of them. If people are up on their roof, that looks like a third story to me. I've already sent letters to each one of you commissioners, and I'm just here to tell you that I'm not going away, and I'm going to fight for our neighborhood. And we have a great neighborhood, and I know we have a great bunch of people on the board here, and I know you'll all look out for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Andeskavich. Did I butcher it? Okay. Please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to about 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Philip Andeskavich. I own and live at 3301 Southwest 44th Street. I'm here to talk about the same issue that Barbara just talked about, and that is the potential building of multifamily units disguised as two-story homes, which will basically be three-story homes overlooking our properties and based on the height further down, even across from my property. To give you an idea, this piece of land is surrounded by single-family homes. I know there's other construction projects in the area, but that is the major fundamental differences. They're trying to insert multifamily units into a single-family neighborhood, and it's just a shame. We fought pretty hard to get into that house because we really liked it, and we chose Dania Beach to live in. We just couldn't see the potential that maybe there'd be, you know, what they were planning on building next door. It definitely would have changed our mind. I think it would change a potential buyer's mind. And in no way could it raise our value, even though with short, brash conversations with the builder, using buzzwords such as luxury homes, raising home value, it's a bad deal for the residents on that street. We enjoy our little neighborhood. This is not progress. It's not good progress. Just to illustrate how intrusive this potential building could be, looking at the plans, which I'll just point out first. There's a beautiful illustration on the front. What it is not showing is my house, which should be right here. This first building is 10 feet off my property line. 10 feet is not very far. To give you an idea of what that really means is, Commissioner James, you have a... Nope, but you know what 10 feet is because you played basketball for a very long time. And to give you more perspective, the free throw line is 15 feet away. This building will be 10 feet away from my property line.
That's the size of the rim, the height.
It's also the height. Imagine standing this close, and now you have 3 stories looking up on my property. Same way for Barbara, and from that height, they can see further on. It's basically an observation deck of my life. I'm sure I'll go over 3 minutes, but
You're coming up on it pretty
okay.
quickly.
Next meeting I'll continue.
Okay, thank you. I think your wife is coming up next. So.
Oh, sorry. Coincidentally, I wasn't here for the airplane noise, but we have a baby due in July, and I'm very saddened to hear that there could be a lot of nighttime traveling, which I've benefited from the program, but I can still wake up every time a plane flies over overnight. So just a word for that. So.
Mayor, excuse me, Mayor.
Yes. Commissioner Harris.
Philip, I talked to you after the last P&Z meeting, and I got your email today, so I'll schedule a visit with you.
Thank you.
I'll come by.
Thank you very much.
Samantha Andiscavage.
Hello, thank you for having us. I live with Philip at 3301 Southwest 44th Street. Continuing on what he said, it's definitely unappealing to have a second-story home, but like he mentioned, I don't know if we explained it really, but there's actually on the rooftop, there's going to be an observation deck. So instead of it just being 2 stories, actually it's a 3rd story, view of our home. So it's not really just the 2 stories. So aesthetically, it's not great. It feels invasive. It definitely does not increase the value of our home. No one's going to want that if we ever decide to sell our home. But also, we were kind of excited that we were on a dead-end street and it was very quiet. And, there's not much traffic going in and out. And now we're going to have like 18 cars, whereas maybe I thought that if someone moved in, there would be like 4 at the most. Say they divided it up into a couple different homes. And now there's going to be 18 cars right next to us going in and out. So not excited about that prospect going in and out. Another thing that someone had mentioned at the zoning meeting that we attended last time is the potential for water runoff, because with these kind of things they tend to raise the land, and we already have standing water problems in our front yard, and we're definitely worried that the runoff into the streets and into our yard might directly affect us. And then there are some people that were not able to be here tonight that are very concerned about being able to get past this location to their own home. Since it is a dead-end street, they cannot. Like with another property down the street, they closed the street down multiple times to work on it, and I don't know how they would do that with people that live on a dead-end street. And also they were worried about emergency situations and being able to access. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I just wanted to know, has the developer reached out to any of you all and set up community meetings? He reached out to you? I mean, have there been a community effort?
Yeah, I've had experiences with them also.
Okay, so no.
But not properly reaching out, no. Just
Yep.
sees me in my yard next door.
If you're going to respond, you have to come up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So.
I didn't realize that.
Okay. Okay. Kathy David? Please state your name and address, and we'll be limited to about 3 minutes.
Kathy David, 4381 Southwest 34th Lane. I'm here to talk about the townhomes because I'm in the cul-de-sac that's going to have to drive by the probably 27 more cars that are going to be coming in and out. And we are single-family homes all the way around, and in a cul-de-sac it's quiet. Now, whoever, I think after we went to the P&Z board, they have counters. They're counting in and out. And it's all fine, but I just can't imagine 2 stories and then a sun deck. And then like 4 cars at each one, 27 cars. It just seems crazy to me. You know, we're not used to that. I know progress, I know that. A friend of mine he said that he thought that they could only put 5, but we're checking this out. Everybody's working on this, and there'll be a bunch of us at the next P&Z board, and we'll be back here again. I just wanted to ask for your help in this matter. And there was something else, but I forgot it now, so, but thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm?
I said thank you.
I said thank you.
Okay. Maria DeVito?
Hello, everyone. I'm Maria DeVito. I live at 1951 Atlantic Shores Boulevard in Hallandale Beach, Florida. I've written an email to the Vice Mayor and to the City Manager regarding the Dania Beach Grill. And I was at the last meeting, and Anna Garcia said I should come to this meeting, so here I am. I was wondering if there's been any decision made regarding whether you're going to repair it, which I doubt, or you're going to tear it down and rebuild. Has there been a decision?
Manager? We have in the next commission meeting, Mr. Vito, an update that we will be making in regards to all our findings. The second report that just came in last week has been posted online, and we'll be meeting individually with all the elected officials. So at the June 11th meeting, we'll be giving...
my birthday.
Oh, your birthday. Happy birthday in advance.
June 11th.
Yes. That's when we'll be giving you all the latest updates and get direction from the commission.
Okay, so I'll have to just look online, right?
But you can come back to the next meeting, June 11th.
It'll be my birthday, though.
Okay.
I won't be.
It is televised, and they do tape it, so you should be able to.
I know.
to
I
review
will
it.
look at it. Thank you. And I miss it. Yesterday, I really missed it. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is public safety reports.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I recently spoke about the increase we've seen in skimming devices on gas pumps throughout the city. Our crime prevention unit's working together with the Division of Consumer Services in order to inspect every gas station in Dania Beach for these skimming devices. So it's a nice little task. It'll probably take a couple weeks to prepare, but I'll report back on it on how many are found. If you look in the back, you see this crew. It kind of got smaller because there was another call they had to go to. They were here last year when the sheriff awarded them with the Department of Law Enforcement Unit of the Year for the whole agency. Last week I attended the Broward County PBA Officer of the Year Awards, where our Dania Beach BSO Detective Matt Goodnow, raise your hand, he was honored there for being the Deputy of the Year from the PBA. And I'd like to read real quick what they read, the MC read at the ceremony. It was really nice. Throughout 2018, Broward Sheriff's Office Detective Matt Goodnow performed above and beyond his normal assigned duties by continuing his tireless work investigating and removing dangerous gang members from Broward County communities. Through his relentless efforts and with the assistance of the Dania Beach CST detectives, Detective Goodnow was able to build solid criminal cases against dangerous individuals and ultimately remove them from the streets of Broward County. Working with the BSO gang unit and several federal agencies, Detective Goodnow planned, coordinated, and supervised numerous aspects of the investigation. In addition to conducting this long-term joint gang investigation, Detective Goodnow has simultaneously maintained the highest commitment to service as he continued to address his daily duties as a narcotics canine handler, as well as working towards his master's degree in public administration from Nova Southeastern. Detective Goodnow is a consummate professional who, without wanting to be recognized or fanfare, gives back to the community by feeding the homeless and distributing toys and athletic equipment to the less fortunate during the holidays. His professionalism, unselfishness, and dedication to service is why he is the 2018 Broward County PBA Deputy of the Year from the Broward Sheriff's Office. So, thanks for everything. That completes my report.
Is he here? Is he? Okay, just checking. Okay. Yeah, we should go take a picture. I think we should take a picture. So.
I get that a lot.
Huh?
No. I was home writing a paper.
Chief Holness?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission, City Manager, Deputy Chief Gregory Holness from the Broward Sheriff's Office. Sorry, I was texting to get my kickball team together. I just want to put it for the record that fire does beat police every once in a while. So, so I'm waiting for the. I'll be more than happy to join in the festivities, Ms. Grace. So next time, just make sure I'm there. We're ready? Okay, I'm ready with you. Not much to report other than that, June 1st is coming around the corner, and I know the manager is going to bring up about the upcoming June 1st Hurricane Preparedness Expo here at Dania Beach. I will be here. Just to remind everyone, what I find a little distressing is that NOAA said it's going to be a near normal hurricane season. I don't think any hurricane season should be near normal, should always be less than normal in my book, but it only takes one, and it's never too late to prepare. So if anybody hasn't been out there getting their stuff together, as far as the residents, please stop by the booth. There's going to be a lot of information that's going to be passed out, and they could certainly gain some insights from some of the folks that's going to be presenting there. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Next item is consent agenda. Are there any polls?
I'll need to read the ordinances.
Okay. Commissioner James?
I have 7.3, 7.6, and 7.7.
Commissioner Harris?
7.8 and 7.9.
Vice Mayor?
I have, sorry, I didn't hear what everyone else said. 7.7 and 7.12.
Okay. Do we have a motion with regard to the rest of the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve all except for 7.3, 7.6, 7.7, 7.4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to pull 7.4.
Okay.
Also.
7.3, 7.4, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, 7.12.
And 11, which I'll read.
And 11.
And
Sorry.
11.
Thank you.
All of
What's
them.
left, whatever's left. I'm not sure anything's
And
left.
12.
Okay, the ones that are staying are 1, 2, 5, 10, and that's it.
Okay, motion?
And Commissioner James made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And anyone opposed?
Yes.
Commissioner Brandon Marty's opposed? Yes.
Might as well.
Okay. Okay.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, directing the release of the restriction of funds previously designated for certain costs associated with the impact of the redeveloped property formerly known as the Dania Highland, now Dania Beach Casino, subject to certain conditions, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Thanks, Tom. I wanted to know what these certain conditions were and why we need to lift the restriction on it. And furthermore, I'll wait till that question is answered.
Who?
Nikki?
I'm not sure
Please.
who.
Our finance director is coming up to the podium to give us the details.
Nikki Satterfield, Finance Director. Okay, in 2007, when the pari-mutuel first went into play, the City Commission at that point in time adopted a resolution to basically restrict the funds that were going to be coming in from the operations of that, our city portion of that, for a period of 5 years from the date that we actually started receiving the revenue, which actually really didn't start happening until 2014 due to the fact that it was under construction and things like that. So once that started coming in, that 5-year period is now up. The idea behind that at the time was that they wanted to go ahead and restrict those funds until such time as they really saw what the impacts would be from the casino being there. It was intended to be used for traffic control, emergency response, police, fire, public safety, whatever impacts might come out of that. That 5-year period is now up. We had utilized a portion of that money already, which was voted by the prior commission to fund a couple of deputies. The remaining funds we talked about in September of last year during the budget process, that once this restriction was due to expire in May, the commission at the time said bring it back forth at mid-year, which is what we're doing, to release the rest of the restriction on the funds, and we were going to use that money to fund the fire chief at mid-year, which is what's being brought forward tonight. The restriction of the funds has to be done, and then the actual, another agenda item is before you, which is to renew the actual BSO fire rescue contract, which also includes the addition of the fire chief for mid-year.
So again, my question is, why do we have to?
Because the resolution that was adopted in 2007 said that the only way to reverse this is that it has to be done by commission approval, and it has to be done by 4/5 vote.
Okay, so why do we have to reverse it? Is it an option to not reverse this? I don't.
You can leave it restricted if you want to.
What are the benefits or?
Well, leaving it restricted, what that's going to do is every time you want to use the funds moving forward, what this is going to allow us to do is just go ahead and keep the money that's coming in. We will now continue to budget. It will go into our general operating budget, which we've already identified as going for public safety. We've already pretty much allocated everything that's coming in. Once we do this for the fire chief and the 2 police officers, it's basically just going to free up the funding. We won't have to, keep going through this motion every year.
But we do this every year?
Well, what you have to do right now in order to use any of the funds is you have to vote on it every single time. Well, we've already said we're going to go ahead and use a portion of it for police. Now we're going to say we're going to use it for fire. There really isn't going to be any excess revenue coming in.
What? Okay.
So it's more of a bookkeeping.
It was both police and fire on that resolution.
Well, it was actually, it's for increased police and fire protection, emergency responses, traffic control, or traffic calming measures. It's whatever of those areas was defined by the city commission when those impacts came up.
Right.
So we already allocated a portion of it, the commission did, for the deputies. Now the rest of the allocation is going to be freed up for the fire chief.
Is it a problem keeping it restricted so we can make sure that certain funds are being dedicated to public safety?
There's not a problem in doing it. It's just that we're really pretty much everything that's coming in is already being allocated out. So to restrict it really doesn't, it's more of a bookkeeping issue for us. It's really not something that's going to change either way.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Is other comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Brandamari.
A little refresher course on this. When the casino decided to come here, there were a lot of residents against the casino, if some of you remember at that time. And the biggest issue that they were against it for was safety. They thought that it was going to bring a lot of crime to our area, which it did. It's unfounded. It didn't happen. So what happened was the income was restricted at that time due to that fear. The casino would bring crime. Like I said, the commission at that time restricted the money to one word: safety. Anything that really had to do with safety. However, the commission has the right to either restrict, and they have the right to change it. It takes 3 votes. No, I don't think it's 4 votes. Is it 4 votes?
One in particular,
so it's 4/5 of a commission to do it. But they do have the right, after discussion, to do it either way, if I'm incorrect. But I think at the time, though, Nikki, I don't remember. Did we also put on an extra police officer after we did that?
Those were done in 2018.
2018.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, did we go slow?
The downside to not releasing the restriction is that this resolution specifically identifies the fact that you really need to be using these funds for impacts directly related to the casino being put in. So by freeing it up, you can use it for public safety citywide, not just in that particular area.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandamart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
Carries 5-0.
7-4, resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, amending charges established for the mausoleum spaces and entombment cemetery plots, interment costs, and other cemetery services at Memorial Park and West Lawn cemeteries by providing certain discounts for city employees for their immediate family members, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
I pulled this because I had some concerns legally about this and whether or not there could be some legal implications with doing this. I did speak to our city attorney about it. I also spoke to our labor attorney about it, who did tell me that there are some serious discrimination concerns involving this, that there could also be issues involving unions and negotiations with unions, and he basically said that we should not do this. However, what I would like to see us maybe do is maybe we could have finance take a look at other ways that we might be able to do some discounts. Maybe look at, I know there's already a significant discount for residents, whether they're city employees or not, and maybe there might be a way to do a different way of, or additional ways of discounting for residents themselves. So, but my primary concern were the legal issues, and that was confirmed for me when I spoke with Jim about it earlier today.
Again, this came to me as the mayor brought it to me through the Labor Council, but I haven't been able to speak to the Labor Council myself, so I'd like to have him give an explanation to the commission what he thinks the issues are, if they're that serious, and then we'll deal with it, but I don't have them in front of me tonight. So I would recommend we just postpone this to the next meeting so we have an answer. In the meantime, if there's a concern about it now, you could consider other options, but if you want to bring it back, let me bring it back to you at the 11th meeting, June 11th.
Commissioner James?
Yes. When were these concerns? I don't know. When did they appear from the Labor Council?
Well, my concerns were raised when I looked at the agenda, and I prepared, so I contacted Labor Council, and I spoke with him about it today.
Could you tell us anything that they said?
Yeah, specifically, he said there's a concern that you, especially dealing with unions, because the unions are negotiating, and you will have people that are in the unions who are residents and non-residents, and you're not going to be able to confer a benefit on on a resident that's not the same benefit on a non-resident. And the other issue is that you could potentially have lawsuits as a result of this if somebody feels that they're not receiving the same benefits.
So how do we do it with our to the city manager? How do we do it with Parks and Recreation when we give a discount for space? I mean, how does if we have a resident or an employee that is a resident here and they go have a wedding reception at IT Parker Center, how is that any different?
I think what you're looking at is given a benefit, and I'm just moving forward. I don't know what has been done in the past, but when you give a benefit to a resident versus a non-resident, that's doable. But when you give a benefit to a city employee who has family in the city versus a city employee that doesn't have family in the city, that's when you can get into a union dispute, because you're giving a certain benefit to a certain group of individuals but not to another. So it's not like the union, everybody in the union can get it. It's something that we would have to negotiate.
So from the time that this was brought forward by myself, when did all of this other stuff, did you know about any of these concerns or things with the union prior to today that I guess we all could have known about? Because this has been a while since this was first brought forth, and this is the first I'm hearing about these concerns and conversations with the labor attorney regarding this matter.
Well, as I said,
I was asking the city manager what she
we go
knew.
through the chair.
Okay, city manager.
City manager.
I had not looked at this item. I was not working on this item when all you guys call me in regards to the different items and the different concerns. When the mayor called today, actually when she came today, she brought it to my attention, and as an attorney, I asked her to speak to our city attorney or our labor council. So this afternoon was when our labor council called the mayor, called back and said, I have concerns over this. And I asked the mayor that she should talk to our city attorney, and city attorney basically communicated to the mayor. I haven't even discussed this with the city attorney yet.
Okay, I would like to sit down with everyone involved, labor attorney, city attorney, AFSCME, all of those people to make sure that we come together for a solution that can benefit our employees during a time of bereavement, because I definitely think that shows a good face and good faith with us that we are trying to take care of our employees and provide a benefit to them.
I would like to, again, suggest that finance take a look at the actual, do an analysis basically of the whole program and see if there's some way that we can add to the benefit for the residents. And then this way that may resolve some of the issues, some of the concerns that you have. Commissioner Harris? Oh, no, he's lit. Okay. Commissioner Brandimari?
Yeah, maybe this would have been a good time to put it into the union contract, something.
But then you're going to end up, well, there's concerns with that as well.
But I can see what the point is you brought up. You're absolutely right on the fact that we'll get sued.
Well, and you also, if you go through the unions, then you're talking about residents and non-residents both having a certain benefit. And it's not just the unions. There are other aspects of it as well, because, and a labor attorney can explain it. I'm sure he'll be happy to come and explain it.
No, I understand what you're
or send
saying.
out a memo to us or whatever he needs to do. But
right.
I mean, it's the concern is that you're conferring a benefit on a specific group of people and not all of the employees. And there's potential there for liability. And that's what the concern is overall.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes.
Legal has their role in this process, and the administration and finance has their role in this process as well. I'd look at things that are not legally related, working with my staff that are financially and at operations related. When it came to this, I missed it, but you would want me not to focus on things that are related to legal. And basically, when the mayor brought it to my attention, it made sense only because we're not offering this to all employees. We're just offering this to employees who have family that live in the city.
Commissioner James?
Yeah, I'm just going to make a motion that we withdraw it until we have further discussion on what it needs to be.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
7.6, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the proper city officials to execute a Fifth Amendment to the agreement existing between the City of Dania Beach and the Broward Sheriff's Office relating to a renewal of the agreement and a change to the fire rescue staffing structure to add a district fire chief. Providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Yes. In light of conversations that we've been having, and I would like the fire chief to come up because I have a few questions for him regarding this. In light of the conversations that we've been having of a growing community, a growing city, and not having the adequate service that we desperately need here, and that has resulted in more than one death in the past months because both neighbors have come to us and told us about lack of response time and lack of, I don't know, units and the fire chief. And so I not only want to support this district fire chief, I would like to ask how could we expedite the process on adding a unit which would be the one that is responding to these calls, and the importance of that, or what you feel the importance of that and how that could help us. And I know that we could possibly wait until October 1, but how many more situations are we going to have from now until October 1 before we start doing something today?
Mayor and Commission. Yes, I mean, I've been up here and talked about those incidents. Tragic, absolutely. The predictability versus probability question, I've always used with caution. I can't predict the calls, but I can tell you, based on the concurrency of the calls, which is more in my line of probabilities, that you're in the high area. You're as far as demand for service. So, and I think I've talked about the 52%. For every other call that drops and two are busy, the third call coming in is going to have a delayed response time. The main thing in addressing these issues is which comes first. Does a district chief come first, or does the unit come first? Obviously, I'm always going to side with the unit, but applying a strong and methodological approach to it is our greatest chance of success. So how we do that is totally upon the city executive staff. How do we look at it? Because we're talking millions of dollars. So in order to facilitate that, how do we do that in a systematic approach? I'm all for having an additional unit. Do you need it? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And with as we migrate into Dania Point, end of the year, the TCOs are going to be handed out. At that point, we see an uptick in calls already. We can't predict it, but the probabilities exist right now, as it stands right now. In order to do that, yes, we do need it. In fact, the city manager directed us to take a look and start the discussions with Hollywood. We did. Chief Busenbarek did. Fortunately, Chief Busenbarek used to be the fire chief in Hollywood at the time, and as I said, it was a tipping point. We do have to add. We have to be able to survive on our own in order to have some sort of agreement with the city of Hollywood in order to do that sharing, which is that is the most ideal way to do it, and it basically mimics the closest unit response, which gives us that leading edge.
Would an extra unit help you all to meet that criteria?
Absolutely.
And how much would that cost from June 1st to September 30th? I guess Nikki could come back, or if you have it.
Very good. That's a good one. Speaking of three-person unit, so you're talking about a mid-year. So you're talking about 1.5 million. That's salaries only, and I'm using approximate figures. I just want to clarify that I'm using approximate figures. It's 1.1 million.
1.1.
1.1
without the benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
I carried a 1. I should have done this by.
Okay. I would like to ask this commission for consideration to not only approve a district fire chief, but to also, in this mid-year assessment that we're going through, to approve a med unit as well. I know that Nikki's probably going crazy back there, and that's fine. I'd asked about a week or so ago about how much we had in our restricted and unrestricted reserves. And I do know that we have an adequate amount, enough to still be comfortable with best practices in having this now, because regardless if we have it now or we wait until October 1, it's still going to be needed. It's something that is still going to be a great investment for our public safety, for the quality of service that they receive, and 1 minute can equal one life. So I don't want to play around with this issue, with this investment.
I'd like to ask Nikki to come up here, please. How much is there?
Okay. Nikki Satterfield, Finance Director. Having an adequate amount of reserves is not really the issue here. The issue here is that you are looking to go to reserves for an ongoing operating cost that we cannot sustain in the following year. This is kind of a prelude to what I was going to do as a quick presentation at the next meeting in June to give you kind of a peek of where the values are for this year. We did recently receive on Friday the assessed values for June 1st. The city increased 4.7% this year, which is really only going to garner probably another $915,000 in revenue this year for the city of Dania Beach. So that money in itself is already being consumed in the normal budget process, just between the overall general increase that we have that's going to be coming from just BSO fire alone this year is going to be $600,000 increase. We've got our comp and class, which is already over $200,000 that we're going to do. So the money that we're already getting in this year on tax revenue is already pretty much been accounted for. So if you're going to look to go to the reserves for over $1 million here just for a portion of the year, you're talking at least $2 million for next year. The city cannot sustain that.
Well, not coming out of my idea was not for it to come out of the reserves every year, just until
understandable. But the problem is we don't foreseeably know what next year's revenues are going to be. The $915,000 we're getting already for this year in October coming up, it's pretty much already allocated out for just normal operating expenses that we're going to be facing just through the general contract, as well as the comp and class, which we've talked about. We still have BSO police that we have to take a look at what their increases are for this year. So the money we're already getting in is already pretty much going to be spent. So for us to go ahead and do what you're asking is going to have to come from reserve. There's nowhere else for it to come from. And we don't know what next year's revenues are going to be for 2020 yet. So the revenues that came in for this year, on the addition deletion file I received this morning, I took a quick peek, did include 3 of the new hotels. It included one of the large warehouse locations. It included the Aldi. It also included about $60 million from Dania Point. That in itself is what garnered pretty much the majority of the increase in revenue this year. I have no doubt we'll have more next year, and probably 2021 is probably when you're really going to see the big revenue coming in. But for the city to try to fund this kind of a project without looking at the other options to either potentially phase it in, I don't think would be a prudent thing to do, because we're not really going to know when those revenues are going to drop. And I know I sound like a broken record, because every year I come up and I say don't spend it till we have it. But we're really, really there. We're almost close, but we all thought we were going to get more in this year. It didn't quite come to fruition yet. It's all about the timing of when those things come online. So I do caution that we probably should hold off on this and look at all of our options, and then maybe look at a phased approach if that's something we can afford to do.
What percentage do we have in our general unrestricted that we put aside for our reserves? Like, what percentage do we put aside for reserves?
25%.
And that's and
that was the goal that the commission
way before we got here.
Yeah, well, the GFOA recommends that you have at least 3 months of operating
so
put aside.
What is 3 months?
Roughly about 13, 14 million.
Okay.
It fluctuates every year.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is, if we didn't operate at 25%, which is the most conservative, because I looked up numbers as well, and it said anywhere between, I want to say it said 14% and 25%. Maybe that number is a little low at 14%, but 25% was like the max. If we didn't operate to where we are saving 25% of it, that frees up money annually.
No, it does not. It doesn't free up operating budget. All it does is free up reserves, which reserves really should be used for your one-time expenditures.
Okay.
So what you're asking is to basically use your reserves ahead of time in anticipation of revenue that may or may not come in the future.
That's not what I'm asking.
Well, that's kind of the result. If you're going to go ahead and free up more money, reduce your reserves to 15%. You may free up, say you free up another, these are rough numbers, I'm not even doing the math in my head. Say you freed up another $5 million, and you're wanting to fund another rescue. You're talking about staffing, operating, trucks, everything else. You're going to fund that off of your reserves for a couple of years in anticipation that in a couple of years you're going to have enough operating revenue to come in to sustain that moving forward. That's not something we would ever recommend doing.
So if you go from 25% to 20%, just say, so you now have only 20% in your reserves, can that money not be used in our general fund in order to do
only for capital? When you have to remember, all your ongoing revenue coming in is what you're using for your ongoing expenses coming out. The reserves are there because over the years we've been accumulating and saving over one year to another. So it's basically your savings account. But you don't ever really use your savings account for what your next year's operating expenses are going to be.
You can cut down your savings account and put it into your checking account and use those.
You can, but then how are you going to pay for it the following year? That's the problem. You can pay for it the first year, but the second year, if you don't have enough money coming in, you're going to have to go back to your savings account and you're going to have to pull back some more money.
No, I understand that part of it. I'll let everyone else ask questions. I hear buttons going off.
Actually, the city manager asked.
I wanted to jump in because we all totally support public safety. That's number one, and I'll say that here and I'll say that everywhere. We're going into the steps of the budget workshops that we're going to be meeting one-on-one with every single one of you guys, and then we're going to have our public budget workshops and our budget hearings. What is very concerning is we're optimistic about the future, without a doubt, but this money's coming in gradually. The monies that are coming in for next year, based on the 4% and change that we received that I sent to you guys late this afternoon, because Nikki, as you know, was in bereavement leave. The money that we're getting next year, the extra money, is $900,000. Out of that $900,000, $625,000 is already gone, and that is for BSO fire. Those are the expenditure that we must spend via the union contract. In addition to that, we have the comp and class. In addition to that, we have our operations, your priorities that you all would like to see in next fiscal year. I think it might be best to be able to take those steps during the budget workshop to be able to look at this holistically. I'm just concerned to like commit to $1.1 million. And I just wanted to ask, if we were to approve this, would we be ready to go June 1st with 3 new guys in a truck?
He said it would take a month.
Or how long would that take?
Actually, this is where the misnomer comes up. It's actually 13 personnel, full-time equivalents. It's 3 positions, and then use the staffing factor, it ends up rounding up to being 13 sworn full-time equivalents to do it. We would use existing folks, but we still have to backfill those new positions. And ramping them up, we couldn't get it done overnight. It'll take a month or so to ramp up.
Yeah, my concern is to make the decision right here, right now, of over $1 million in expenditures without even looking at what the proposed budget for police is, what the proposed budget is for any of the departments yet. So we would do whatever you want us to do, but I'm very concerned that on the fly here, we will commit to this immediately of these 13 new positions with everything else that we haven't seen yet.
Commissioner Brandon-Marty?
Okay. It amazes me, through the mayor to the city manager, if you really do feel that way about this and all this money, then even before we started to find out how much money we have to work with in a budget, why are you asking for all of these new employees? Why? We should be, these here things that were pulled tonight, why I said no, it's all stuff that should be discussed during our budget. How can we plan money we don't even know we got yet? So even on your position, I don't understand how you could put on agendas wanting an assistant to this assistant, an assistant to that. That doesn't fly with me at all. They belong on the budget meetings, not here during a commission meeting.
This is something that I totally agree with you. This is something that was
all of them.
There's something that was communicated with me that was a need in the clerk's office. We don't have a problem tabling that one position, as that one part-time position.
All of them.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I guess that's what part of that is my question as well. We're taking $225,000 and allocating it to a fire chief, and then we have all of these other things of the item that I pulled that have budgetary impacts, and we haven't looked at our budget holistically, but we're being asked to approve other positions, and they aren't $1.2 million each, but they all do add up. we haven't had a chance to look at how that affects our budget in whole. We didn't have a chance to look at how the district fire chief affects our budget in whole with other fire officers that may be needed. And so if we're going to table everything until budget time, because I definitely have issues with a lot of the other positions, I would feel like we need to table those things until budget time as well. I just don't, I don't know how we could address certain things and then things that are kind of the equivalent when we're looking at it from a budgetary perspective, and we have 5 positions or however many in here at mid-year looking to be funded immediately, and I don't think any of these are immediate needs. A lot of these, I don't think they are immediate needs. And so if we're going to do things at mid-year, I think we all should be able to bring forth what we feel are priorities, especially in light of having deaths in response to response time. I just don't see how it's equal.
Commissioner Brandemarty. Chief, well, actually, let me start with Nikki. We already budgeted for, I believe, for a mid-year adjustment for the fire chief, correct?
That's on this resolution. That this is the resolution you just previously passed, which freed up the money from the pari-mutuel operations, was what was the intent to fund for the fire chief, yes.
Okay.
And that's what we had talked about last September.
Right, and that was, we were basically having to go through other resources in order to get the funds to pay for that.
Correct. We had to free up that money so we could pay for it.
Okay. Chief Holness, let me ask you a question. Obviously, I know we need another unit. It's something I have discussed with the firefighters. I've discussed with you. I know we need another unit. I know we need more personnel. Absolutely agree with that. I don't think anybody here disagrees with that. Are you actively working with Hollywood to talk to them about ways to do some concurrent coverage?
Yes, they're in a state of flux right now, and Chief Busenberg can pretty much talk on that a little bit. But their fire chief has retired, and they have an interim fire chief right now, and nobody's going to make that commitment based on all the factors we had discussed over the last couple of meetings. But I just want to stress something before I turn it over to Eric. What's missing right now is the fact that there is no direct liaison between the city, executive staff, and BSO on critical issues that are popping up. In fact, in addition to that, we have June 1st coming up, emergency management coordinator. You don't have that in place to handle that. You don't have a community liaison between that and the community itself, the homeowners associations, all of the things that bubble up to the top that I've been here, that would normally be handled by a district chief. Speaking as a past district chief, those are very complex matters that need a full-time coordination. It's not I answer a phone call and then I leave it alone. It's I've got to go make a follow-up phone call. I've got to check. I've got to double check, triple check. In addition, ISO is coming up. You're coming up for renewal in November, and right now you're in ISO 1. If you don't have all your ducks in line as far as getting all the information, the training records, the hydrant information, the water supply information, all that, you stand to lose in that sense from an ISO rating of 1 to possibly a 2. So because it was just a small fraction of what the gains were, and you're going to need somebody as you move forward in a systematic approach towards that unit that we all agree that needs to happen. You need to have somebody to analyze that data. I've been doing it, but I'm just part-time in this position. I can give you what I can give you, but staff meetings are absent of a liaison from the fire side to properly advise. So I just wanted to point those things out. These are some of the responsibilities that a district chief would be responsible for. 5 to 7 days a week. Making those phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, letting the city manager know that something occurred in the city. If the same calls that the police captain makes, the district fire chief would be also doing. So I'll let Chief Busenbarek kind of fill you in on the Hollywood because he's been more integral part with that.
Hello, good evening. Eric Busenberg. Yes, one of the issues when the City of Hollywood decided to look at the automatic aid agreement at the time was the fact that both cities at the time needed additional personnel and units. City of Hollywood actually went ahead and increased their staffing levels. Unfortunately, at the time, Dania Beach didn't keep up with that. Right. So one of the issues, not the only one, was the City of Hollywood really didn't want to be the giver without getting some sort of reciprocal. Sure. But as the chief said, I spoke to the interim deputy or interim fire chief last week. Unfortunately, that would be a major decision, and an interim chief is not going to give that. Now, they should be coming up with a chief relatively soon, so we can absolutely, start those conversations again. But I will tell you, I would venture to say that would be still one of the concerns that, we raised our, our units.
Yeah, and so it's an uneven balance there. But what, and I know, just 1 second. Let me, whichever of you can answer this. Would a fire chief, a full-time fire chief, be somebody who could not only work with Hollywood on a regular basis, but also be somebody who could look at other options and maybe ways to address some of the deficiencies that are going on currently?
Yes. Your district chief would do all those.
Okay.
Your district chief would be integral with city staff during budget preparations as much as they would want to include that individual. Surrounding agencies, they are the front line person that on any type of incident where there's a concern from the citizens, they are that immediate person on the ground the next day or that night coming out and starting to address those issues. They feed all that information up. Obviously, they need to still get it approved by the fire chief, but that is exactly what you would get.
So, I mean, there might be potential. I think you even mentioned last time at the last meeting that if we could look at some ways to maybe move some things around and maybe address some of the bigger issues that are going on. I know we had an issue. The death wasn't necessarily as a result of the delay, but the delay was significant regardless of that situation over at the estates. And I know you said that that's something you might be able to address whether it was you or whether you have a full-time person there that would be able to handle that. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I've been in contact with folks from there, and I'll be there as much as I humanly can be. But Nikki knows. She chases me down for information all the time, and I'm torn between, especially in the budget season. I've got 8 other contract cities that are requiring information. So I do prioritize Dania.
Right.
Did I say that on record? But as much as possible, I try to get the information there. It's a boulder that's moving uphill. It can be best done with a team, and I think the team, the spare of the team, is that district chief. To get to that extra unit, you're going to need that person. That person is going to be the facilitator to assist the city manager, the finance director, and the commission in making those plans work.
Thank you. City manager?
Yes, I just want to say, to put it on the record, that within week 2 that I started as your manager, I met with Chief Holness, Chief Busenbarek, and Chief Fernandez, which is the Broward chief of fire. And we discussed what would be the #1 priority. And unanimously, all 3 of them said to me, we need to make sure that we put the quarterback in place. So this way we can work with Hollywood, this way we can work with the budget, this way we can really look at everything that we need globally to be able to make the decisions that are in the best interest for the people of Dania Beach. So that's why this is coming here. I was also told that it went through the entire budget process, and that it even went through the first reading of the budget hearing, and then on the second reading, it was pulled out. So that's why I'm bringing this forward. And the other position that we're bringing that supports the manager and the commission and the clerk is a part-time position, a little bit over 20,000. So I just wanted to make that clear. But what concerns me is I know that we can manage a $20,000 position. And I know exactly where the funds are going to come from the district chief. My concern is I don't know where, $1.2 million, $1.3 million are going to come from at this moment. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't support it, but I believe that we should go through the budget process. And if you want to be able to use this part-time position and take a look at it in the budget process, we have no problems with that. We always want to make decisions. The decisions that we bring forward is because we've been taking a look at where the monies are coming from. So that's where we're at. Thank you.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I guess so we can wrap this up. It kind of seems like when you hear the numbers that, oh, we're not getting enough revenue, I'm trying to figure out how many years is it going to be before we can fund another med unit. I think we definitely need to, if this is going to wait to the budget process, we need to look at all of our contracts that we have, that we are outsourcing and using third-party contractors, because some of those contracts are almost $500,000. We can find ways to make this work. I know that we are a very smart staff here, and we are spending money on contracts where we could be spending that money on employees, right, or temp agencies, or outside services for this and that. You can look at every single department and look at where we are spending these monies. But I think that if this is not addressed, at least at budget, that we are doing our residents a disservice in providing them quality service. And we all, or most of us are residents here at Dania Beach. And that could be a time where you are calling for help or someone else is calling for help. And I would hate to be on the other line of that because we didn't budget correctly for this.
City Manager?
I totally agree with what Commissioner James is saying. And we have embarked, Commissioner James, at looking at every single contract, and not just for savings, but looking at every single contract to make sure that we're getting the revenues that we're supposed to be receiving. We also want to look at resident parking versus non-resident parking at the beach. So not just what we're spending, but how can we generate revenues?
Nikki, let me just ask you one more question. There's nothing precluding us from talking about funding another unit and staff for the budget for next year, correct?
Precluding now talking
no,
about
not
it? Or
now, but saying
during
when we have our
process?
budget talks, because I know you're going to be bringing
there's
us.
nothing. Everything's on the table during budget workshop.
And do we know when the workshop's set up yet? We don't have the workshop set up
We don't
yet.
have a workshop set up yet.
We don't. We have the 2 hearings in September, but we'd like to begin the one-on-one with you and also to set up a budget workshop in August.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay.
I guess, could you add this, could you add the Met unit to our budget workshops? I'm going to work really hard from now until then to understand where this money is going to come from, because it's going to happen. If we're at least going to see how we can make this happen.
Okay. So do we have a motion on 6?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve 7.6 then. Is that one?
Do we have as it is? Do we have a second?
Can you read the full?
It's
the approval of the sheriff's.
Oh, just, okay, there was nothing.
No, nothing added.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Item 7, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the appropriation of funds for fiscal year 2018-2019 relating to mid-year review by City Administration, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Yes, again, I pulled this item because these are the things that I'm going to, I guess we can go down item for item like we did last year. Is that what you all want to do, or you want me to just say what I had an issue with?
Why don't you tell us what you had the issue with since you pulled it, and then we can address it from there.
So, item 6, bringing the current part-time record specialist position to a full-time status. It will be reclassified as an admin assistant to reflect the duties of both city manager's office and city clerk's office. My issue with this position is I know that we spoke and we've had conversations, and I've had conversations with the city manager. We don't even have an assistant that is dedicated to the commission. And Chris has filled a new role that requires much more of her time to be dedicated on matters regarding the city manager's office. I know that she was doing a lot of work because we did not have an assistant city manager at the time. Our assistant city manager has started at the time, and I don't think that I would support an additional person being dedicated to the city manager's office and the city clerk's office. This is a position I would like to move to the budget process to see how it will look for us to have an assistant as well, because currently we don't have anyone that is dedicated to the five of us and our wants and our needs, because the person that is dedicated manages a lot of work with the entire, with the meetings that she's involved in, and being the manager to the to the city manager, and now the assistant city manager as well.
Vice Mayor?
Was that all that you had, Commissioner?
I'm just at item .6.
Okay. Well, because
item 6.
I pulled this item as well, and it was just because item 5, I have an amendment regarding item 5. So I don't know if you want me to go into it now, or if you want me to just wait to where I have it at.
Well, why don't we start with item 6, since that's one issue that's been addressed, and the city manager also has something to add.
Yes, in regards to this part-time position, it was really brought forward to support the mayor and commission. My executive assistant supports 7 people. That's unheard of. But let me tell you, Chris will continue to do it. But my recommendation to be able to bring that part-time position was to support you 5.
It doesn't say anything about the city commission in it, and I would like to revisit it at budget time, where we could look and see what an assistant dedicated just to us would mean, and what that means for job description and duties and things of that nature.
City manager?
Certainly. When we put together the memo for you, we also discussed in the memo that this was to support the office of the city manager and to support the office of the mayor and commission as well. But this is certainly something that we could discuss during the budget process. We just want to make sure that, for example, Chris right now can't even go to lunch because there's no one to even answer the phone if they call for any of you or for myself. We're going to bring to your attention our needs, so we could discuss it during budget. But it's very important that Chris is supporting 7 individuals. So,
Commissioner Brandemarty?
Chris has been supporting 7 people for the 30 years that Bob Bowen was here. And now all of a sudden with the new city manager, Chris needs another Chris. This is just getting to be just too much, ladies and gentlemen. All I'm seeing is opening up all new jobs because somebody's obviously promised people, gee, when I get to that city, I'll have a job for you. Chris never once complained to Bob Baldwin about needing an assistant in over 30 years.
Commissioner Harris?
Let's bring this back at the budget time, and then Paula, we can do develop some kind of, and we can have some input on a job specification and a job description for an additional support staff for Chris, and then is everybody in consensus on that we'll bring it back with a job spec and full responsibility?
When? It's fine with me.
Budget time, or sooner.
I'm
we
in-
can develop it.
Budget.
I'm in consensus of bringing it back at budget time. Now, what that means and how it's spelled out, I'm not sure if I'm agreeing with everything that you're saying, but we could definitely bring it back and have a conversation about it.
Maybe bring it back at a workshop. We can discuss it more and have a job description and whatnot at that point. Okay? So, and then Vice Mayor, did you want to discuss item 5 now?
Yeah, that's fine if you want to knock it out now so you don't have to hear my voice later. So item 5 pertains to the travel policy. We moved at the last meeting to move it, I believe, from 12 to 10. Is that correct, Nikki?
Yes.
Okay. And we moved to individual allotments at the recommendation of the city manager because we felt it made more sense for each commissioner to be responsible for their own travel and what they wanted to prioritize. I brought it back as an amendment because I felt that maybe we could tailor the number better versus when we were up here, we were just sort of fielding numbers. Someone saying 2,000, some person saying 5,000, another person saying 10,000 without any actual evidence behind it. What makes up that 10,000, 15,000, 20,000? So I felt that was perhaps a little lackadaisical on our part. So I went back. I went with city staff, and they provided me the current travel budget for 2019. That I went back 2018 and 2017. Adam provided me those two. And it seemed to me, we needed one DC legislative meeting, that was something common that the commissioners, not just this commission, the former commissions had done. A Tallahassee legislative meeting, one national conference I picked. I found the number by averaging 3 of the other commissioners' national conferences, and then one Florida League of Cities conference as well, and that gave me 7,460, which I rounded up to 8,000 because, there's always little changes. So that was one way to skin the cat. It's a more tailored number than just saying, I think 10,000, I think 15,000, I think 5,000. The other way to do it is if you wanted to wait until budget, and whatever's approved now is approved. Is that correct? We already have budgeted everything that's been approved so far. Like the
no.
Orlando trip,
No, currently you're going to need funding here at mid-year if you want to continue to.
No, I understand it mid-year, but everything up until mid-year is already accounted for.
We're about $3,700, $3,800 we are in the hole right now.
Okay, so we're 3,800 in the hole. And
then there's the plan still for the 2 newly elected officials that have to go to conference, and then the Florida League of Cities conference still, which we're estimating at about 10, which would bring the total up to 36,000 for the year.
Okay.
So you would need about another 18 to 20,000 to finish out the remainder of the year in order to attend those conferences.
Okay. And do we have any plan for that so far?
Plan for
funding it.
Mid-year.
Okay.
Yeah, that was going to be part of this.
So that aside, so either going with this more tailored number of $8,000, which has the justification of where the money is coming from, or if each commissioner, Commissioner Brandemarty has said that she travels significantly less. In this particular year, I know that for myself, I'm not going to be traveling a tremendous amount for this year. Next year, who knows, maybe different. Commissioner Harris, he may have some idea of what he's going to be traveling to, as well as Commissioner James. So if they would want to bring to budget their request for each individual person. I already see the head shaking. So any thoughts on those, which you would prefer?
Commissioner Harris?
You have your buttons first.
Number 2 popped up first.
Okay, yeah, I think what we can do is take a look at the conferences that are available for us to go as elected officials, and best case scenario, see what those cost. I think we talked about this, and then bring it back at mid-year for discussion on, maybe there's 4 conferences, maybe only 2 are very valuable to go to and are closer, so we'll pick the ones that are closer. That's all. I mean, we're adults up here. We can manage our conference schedules.
Commissioner James first.
Yes, I am not prepared to look and by a year say, oh, this time I'll be available, this time I won't be available. I'm not prepared to say things that may pop up and may not pop up, and so I'm not going to schedule conferences. Look for conferences to go to. I don't look for conferences to go to. Certain conferences that I think that are most appropriate for my service here are and they may come up maybe 2 months beforehand. I'm not going to be one of those that is going to bring forth all of my conferences to be approved. I'm just not going to do that.
Vice Mayor.
No, I think the commissioner was responding to what I said about she doesn't like the idea, and tell me if I'm putting any words in your mouth, of having to, at this point, make decisions about a year away.
Correct.
And I understand that that's challenging because, maybe it seems daunting to find out what the different conferences are going to be, but it does seem like you can get a good idea of what is going to be offered down the line. But I do understand that some are sent to you versus what you find out. And I don't want us just to pick the ones that are closest to us. I want to pick the ones that are most relevant to us. I'm sorry. I thought you said that we can pick the ones that are closer to us because it's more cost effective. And if that was the case, we would just go to Orlando, 2 times a year. I want us to pick what has the most value and what's going to be the most meaningful. So those were the 2 options. If you don't feel that it would be helpful to tailor your budget to your specific educational and conference needs, then there's also the option that would bring it down from 10,000 to 8,000. Is that anything that would work?
How did
Commissioner James?
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out how we got here talking about budgeted travel almost every commission meeting. I don't understand. If we're just going to talk about reducing a number, then you manage your number how you want to manage your number, or how we got from the pot, or even this idea of everything. If taking a pot down of per commission travel, that's one thing, but it's not the point of me not doing due diligence to go and seek out every single conference that I want to go to, or that is most relevant for us to provide this service to our residents. But I just think we kind of get it I get it as I go. I don't go to everything. I didn't go to Tallahassee. I don't, because it might not. And the money, just because it's allocated, doesn't mean it's going to be spent. I mean, you can have $10,000 allocated and spend $4,000 of it in a year. So I think this number that has been told to residents that has not been a true number. Because it hasn't included any CRA travel from the past. It was only the $18,000 that was from the commission, and then if you add the extra monies that this commission spends on going to CRA travel that has never been allocated in a pot, that number isn't $18,000. So if we're going back and forth about this, I mean, I think we were all elected to be adults here and to manage our travels. It's all public record. I haven't spent $8,000 the first 2 years that I was here. So, I mean, per year since I was here, I mean, other than the training that we had to go to for newly elected officials, there are certain trainings that you all are going to go to that I don't have to go to because I'm no longer a newly elected official. And so, if there's consensus and you all want to change the number, that's one thing, but I'm definitely not in favor of going and picking out conferences just to go to, because just because it's there and it's offered doesn't mean I'm going to go to it.
Vice Mayor.
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner. I mean, I too am very tired about talking about a travel budget every single meeting, and I think that's why we started talking about it, so that we could just make a decision and move on with it. That said, we are stewards of the taxpayer and their money, and I felt that the homework should be there, and that at least when someone says, what do you think you need $10,000 for? What do you think you need $8,000 for? I can say here. Now you may say, Vice Mayor, I don't think you need to go to any of those things. If you need to go to any of those things, you're not as smart as you thought you were, whatever. But at least I've done, the homework is there, the reasons are there, and the understanding and the explanation is there. I'm not saying it's going to be appreciated or meaningful to anyone, but I just wish I would have done that in the first place. So that's what the amendment was for. So
I'd like to add something when you're done.
Yes. So I'm going to stay at 8,000. It's to me a more thoughtful guesstimation of what will be useful to each commissioner. Go ahead.
I just want to add, first of all, thank you, Vice Mayor, for going back and doing this due diligence. I appreciate that. And I do think that you weren't choosing specific conferences. You were saying as an estimate. You were picking up
an average of each of your threes. Average.
Right. Okay. So, and that obviously can change from year to year, but that's part of the budget process, is trying to get an estimate and trying to get a sense of how much we're going to need to allocate each year. And I do appreciate that. With that said, I do think it would be better to hold off on this until we discuss the budget, so we can see what other expenditures are out there. And then, we can take a look at it at that point and see where we are as far as spending is concerned, and combine that in with the other needs that we have. I mean, we've already talked about several things here that we know we need and we need to discuss. So to me, again, this seems like something that maybe we should table until we actually do our budget workshops, which I think is one of your options.
It was one of the options, but then it was my understanding from the other commissioners that they said they did not feel that they could accurately bring to the table a year out what they would be interested in going to.
No.
Commissioner James?
Yes, no, I didn't say I couldn't accurately. I said I'm not going to look at each individual conference. If you've already done the homework, that's your roundabout number. That's homework we can all use. I'm not saying that. So.
Again, I still think it would be best to discuss it at the time of budget workshops, since we're going to be discussing a number of different things that are expenditures, that are needs as well. Commissioner Harris?
I just call the question to make the motion to table this until budget time.
I'm sorry, were you speaking with me?
Just item 5, I think, right? Just item 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a second?
So 5 was so it was to table it?
No, bring it back to budget time.
To table it until budget time and then renegotiate there again?
Yes.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Can I ask for a quick clarification?
Sure.
Okay, if you're going to do that, I need direction on 2 things. One would be we still need to fund the current deficit which would be item number 5, of approximately $4,000, and I need direction on how you want to handle the remaining conferences for the rest of the year, if we're not going to do an individual allocation.
How much is the total, did you say?
The total, if you're going to go ahead and approve potentially 5 members going to the Florida League of Cities and the 2 elected officials, the estimate, it would bring it to about $36,000. So you would need $18,000 in total at mid-year, which is what we're passing tonight. And would you want those things coming before you, like we've been doing in the past? Or just go ahead and basically approve them knowing that those are the conferences people might go to?
Those are already the ones that have been submitted, correct?
No, they have not been submitted yet. That's why I'm asking. So the 2 elected officials conference are mandatory. The other would be a budget for the commissions to attend the Florida League of Cities in Orlando.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Well, I have confidence that my colleagues will most likely, without I guess being able to get a commitment, will most likely pass our mandatory.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I mean, if
and the other 2 conferences. So, goodwill, I guess.
Okay.
Yes, I believe that'll happen.
So what if we did something? If we
for the travel policy is already in place. So for item number 5, you would just need to amend that to add an additional 18,000 to your travel budget
for the
mid-year to be able to go ahead and fund those trips moving forward. Otherwise, we'll have to bring it back to you for funding.
So if we amend that motion basically to allow for the additional 18,000 at mid-year, and then we table the rest of the travel policy till the budget time.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Harris, you're fine with that?
I'm fine with that.
Commissioner Brander Marty, you seconded it. Are you fine with that?
Yes.
Okay. Can we call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
On that particular issue, yes.
Huh?
I'm sorry, it was just on that particular issue. Just council wanted clarification. So, okay.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
For clarification, what are we voting on? So much has been said.
It is to do the mid-year funding of $18,000 additional, and then to table the rest of the travel policy issues to budget.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and then with regard to the rest of item 7.
Yep, item 7 is another one that I think needs to come back at mid-year. Legal is seeking a part-time admin assistant as well. We don't even have space to put these people at this time. I think we need to have a space plan or a plan for where they would be occupied, and this again should be coming to us at budget time, in my opinion.
Okay, so we would pull that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, do I need a motion for it, or do we need just consensus to remove it?
Mayor, that's what I said at the beginning.
Right.
These are all budget items. Why are they here?
It's okay. So we are. So I think we did consensus before, correct? To pull the others. Yes. Okay, that's fine. Do we have consensus?
Yeah. Yes, for me.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Any others that you need to pull from that?
Item .8. This is asking for another part-time rec aide, but this is no fiscal budgetary impact. So I'm okay with it, but I didn't. I was just going down all. That was the last one. So.
All right. So do we have
this one is part-time?
No. Why don't we do this?
Oh, hold on, Commissioner Brandon.
Go ahead.
I want to say something.
Commissioner Brandon Marty.
How come only? I got a question. How come on one of the most important things in the city, really it is Parks and Recreation, why does it have to be, again, part-time? Why can't it be full-time? These parks deserve it.
I agree.
I mean, can you come up and explain why you'd go after a part-timer and not a full-timer?
Well, first, City Manager.
Yes, Commissioner Brandon Marty, Parks and Recreation holds a very dear place in my heart. This is just for the mid-year budget because it's not costing us anything. Trust me, they're working on their all individual budgets for all the positions that are in need. So thank you for that.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so if that's it, do we have a motion with regard to this, with the exception of 5, 6, and 7?
I make a motion.
No, 6 and 7.
6 and 7.
And
5
5
we
is
already
amended.
addressed, right? And 5 is amended.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda No, it's not the consent. It's not the total consent.
It is consent.
It's the entire consent?
No, it's just
okay.
item.
It's item 7.7 of the consent agenda, with the exception of item 6 and item 7, and that item 5 is amended.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Item 8, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the conveyance of 10 parcels of city-owned land property within the Dania Beach Community Redevelopment Area at a price of $10 per parcel to the Dania Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA, for the purpose of using the property to facilitate single-family housing development in the community redevelopment area, authorizing the proper city officials to execute deeds and related documents for each parcel for this purpose, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Commissioner Harris?
I just pulled that before because of two words, which says single family. In number 9, it says affordable housing, so I would just like number 8 to say affordable housing also. I think if you look at it, and we'll look at it tomorrow, is that there are so many affordable housing options that are not just single family homes, that we just amend and change the two words from single family to affordable housing.
Commissioner James?
Sorry, yes, I have my notes written down on that too, but maybe we can kill two birds with one stone here. If we could amend it to say affordable housing and other development instead of just housing opportunities, I think that would fit better.
That's perfect, actually. I was actually going to say, one of my concerns is I don't know if they're all the properties are meant for housing. Some of them are kind of oddly shaped and might have some issues, but
if
I'm
we
fine
could
with
just
that.
say- So just housing. Well, I don't know if we would say affordable housing because the Smith Store properties aren't considered affordable housing. They're market rate. So housing and other development.
Other development. I think that's fine. I think that's good.
I'll make a motion to
I'll
change the
second it.
verbiage.
Okay.
on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Item 9, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the release of code enforcement liens, city liens, and other encumbrances for 2 parcels of the 10 parcels conveyed or approved for conveyance by the city to the Dania Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA, for the purposes of affordable housing and other development. Authorizing the proper city officials to prepare and record releases and related documents for each parcel for this purpose, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date. By the way, there is one parcel here that may have some CDBG, Community Development Block Grant issues that we'll have to take a look at before we can authorize the conveyance of a deed. I know Ms. Williams is familiar with it. It's the parcel next to the police station. Has some restrictions that we've become aware of within the last several days. So we'll try to find if we can go around those or make sure that we can get rid of them so we can go with the conveyance, but there are currently some issues that I have to look at, see if we can get that released. One parcel. So this is for the release of the liens.
And Commissioner Harris, that's what you were saying. It's the same thing with both issues. You just want to change the language, basically.
I just did that.
Which we did.
I read the title that way.
Okay. So do we have a motion? Commissioner
Motion
James?
to approve. Well, yeah, I was confused about if it was just a language change, but yeah, motion to approve 7.9.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, correct.
Okay, so item 11, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 17 entitled Offenses Miscellaneous, Article 8 entitled Sexual Violators, Section 17-128 entitled Sexual Violator Residency Prohibition of the City Code of Ordinances to specify that the provision of the residency prohibition applies to offenses committed after June 28, 2005, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, further providing for an effective date first reading of this ordinance.
Not sure who pulled that.
I may have just
I don't think it's pulled.
added in with the. You just have to read it.
Oh, you pulled it. You pulled it.
Okay.
I pulled it. I pulled it.
Motion to approve.
And there'll be a public hearing.
Is this a Jessica Lunsford Act? No?
No, it has
this is
nothing to do
different.
with it.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And item 12, which was pulled, is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 17, entitled Offenses Miscellaneous, Article 4, entitled Noise, Section 17-80, entitled Definitions, Section 17-84, entitled Special Permits, and Section 1788 entitled the specific prohibitions of the City Code of Ordinances, to add a definition for the term heavy equipment, to revise the special permit fee for applications seeking temporary approval of activities that cause noise exceeding code requirements, to address hours of construction activities and activities involving demolition and use of heavy equipment, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, further providing an effective date, first reading of that ordinance.
Thank you, City Attorney. I pulled this item because a while ago I asked for us to take a look at our residential noise ordinance. We have some issues in the past. I had talked to Captain Marks about it as well, about how we had the instrument to measure the noise, and I don't know if we no longer use the instrument, but there were several problems with it. It needed to be calibrated, it needed to be taken care of. And several residents had messaged me that this was a significant issue for them. So I asked that that the city manager and our community development director start working on this. And when I looked at it, it looks like it's primarily a commercial noise ordinance. So Mark, if you could just come up and tell me where the rest of my ordinance is.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, Mark LaFerrier, Community Development Director. This is a portion of the overall review of our noise ordinance. This is focusing in on construction activity. It's a little more discreet in its enforcement because it really relates to physical activity instead of measuring noise levels. That approach of dealing with residential concerns related to noise and even commercial noise on residential properties is the subject of a follow-up ordinance that will be before you in the second meeting in June.
Okay. So are these going to be put into one ordinance, or are these going to be two separate ordinances?
Well, it could, if you feel as though that this ordinance is appropriate for first reading and adoption tonight, it could be its own separate ordinance. That ordinance, as it relates to measuring of sound levels and enforcement of sound levels in residential properties, would be a follow-up ordinance, but when it's codified into the code, it'll still be in the same section of the code.
Okay, understood. So when I looked through it, although it wasn't what I was expecting for tonight, it does seem to be a very comprehensive and good ordinance for, as it relates to commercial noise and how to deal with commercial construction activity. So. So I would be okay with adopting this, and then you would be able to hopefully bring back the residential aspect of it in, do we have two meetings in June?
Yes. The 25th of June would be the first reading.
Uh-huh.
And then the second reading would be that second meeting in July. You're not going to have the first meeting in July.
Okay. So you anticipate that you could bring it back at that second meeting in June. All right. Well, so given that, then I'm okay with that. Is there any other discussion on this?
Commissioner Brandemarty.
Yeah, okay. It says it says for residential and commercial. It doesn't just say for commercial. It says residential. So in other words, we're that living in condos, instead of them starting at 8, they can start at 7?
No.
No. What is this?
No, this is really focused in on the construction activity aspect of noise that's in a community. The follow-up ordinance will be more about overall noise regulation and enforcement in the city. Construction activity now is allowed from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. This would revise that so that it could be more focused in from 7 to 7.
Does this include the airport?
No, it does not include the airport.
Nice try.
It would be. It'd be great if we could do that.
Before.
I have a question.
How
Commissioner
would this
James?
affect Meadowbrook,
sorry.
Mark? You know the situation over there.
Well, what it would mean is someone gets a permit and they're doing work in one of the units. They couldn't start until 7. They have to end by 7. Now they can go from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And there's other activities, too, that this would regulate more closely, like anything that's done with heavy equipment or loud equipment is a more limited time frame that they could use it. They can't work on holidays unless they get a special approval. So
They can't work on holidays,
unless
you
there's a
said?
special approval involved.
And then increase, so with that special permit, they're gonna have to pay more money besides.
Yeah.
I like that.
Commissioner James?
Yes, what is the current fee for the special permit request?
It's just $20.
So now we're going to charge them $220?
That's correct.
That's a big increase.
He's right.
Okay. 220. It's an increase of $200, correct?
I think most of the people asking for that special permit will probably be the larger developers that are on a tighter schedule. It shouldn't be your people that go in and remodel homes and apartments
Is there
and things
something
like
that protects those people? You said it shouldn't be, but I don't see that in black and white, because I would hate for the average person to be considered a contractor and be, subject to this regulation, and they aren't the big time contractors and developers.
Well, everyone would be subject to the same hours of operation for construction. What I'm saying is that I expect that the people that will ask for the special permit to go beyond those hours of regulation, and maybe on a Sunday or a holiday, that'll be someone that typically would be a larger developer that's on a schedule, that when he comes in, he can describe his need, what his schedule is, what his forms of mitigation will be, and then we could review that and determine that it's the least amount of impact possible
Okay,
to
so-
allow activity beyond these hours of
So
construction.
the 200 is to go beyond those hours?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm fine.
And just for clarification, just looking at the ordinance, it is $200, not $220, just to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, $200.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve 7.12.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. There are no bids and requests for proposals, and one public hearing.
Public hearing resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the site plan SP 018-19, variances VA 3919, VA 7519, VA 7619, design exception OT 7319, and special exception SE 7419 requests submitted by the Proper and Liberty Property Limited Partnership for property generally located on the east side of State Road 7 between I-595 and Powell's Road in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, provided for conflicts, further providing an effective date. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Anybody who's going to speak on the matter, if they could just stand to be sworn. Anybody who might speak, swear or affirm testimony to give, be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. Thanks very much. Commissioner, have you been contacted by anybody? Please disclose it.
I have.
Otherwise, you can please proceed.
I have.
I have.
What is this?
By the developer.
Yes, me too. Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening, Corinne LaJoy, Planning and Zoning Manager. This application does have several requests for it, but ultimately it accumulates to a site plan approval. The property is located at 4030 South State Road 7. It has industrial zoning and land use designation on the property. There are no open code compliance violations or liens. You did, as a body, hear this item in September of 2018 when there was a plat note amendment to change the use on the plat from the sludge plant to an industrial use, and that was in preparation for tonight getting the site plan approval. The property itself is located on the east side of State Road 7, north of Griffin, south of Interstate 595. The site's approximately 28.5 acres in size, with only 50 feet of street frontage on State Road 7. The surrounding uses of the property is I think to the north is the Broward County garbage dump, and to the south is the Broward County Wheelabrator. Both locations are outside the corporate limits of the City of Dania Beach. The property was recently owned by the City of Fort Lauderdale and is now privately owned. So this is a recent transaction that occurred. This is the only private-owned section of property north of the Dania Cut Canal to 595. And therefore, it's the only site that will be redeveloped as well. They are asking for several approvals for variances, exceptions, special exception, and site plan. This is the site itself. It was owned by the City of Fort Lauderdale, and it was their sludge plant until recently. they're currently in the process of demolishing the structures that are on the site today. So to go through the variance requests, there are three. The first is with regards to parking, and they're requesting to provide 275 parking spaces on the site. What is required is much more, and that's it is in direct relationship to the category of use that was assigned to the site. For distribution, we have a requirement of 1 parking space per 700 square feet. If, for example, there was no distribution activity and it was all warehouse, it would be 1 parking space per 2,000 square feet, and they would only be required 274 parking spaces. For some reason, this particular use of distribution has a much higher parking calculation. That's probably an error and something that we need to look at going forward, but it does require a variance at this time for this application. The next is regarding the building height. The IG zoning district is one of the most restrictive in terms of height. It has a maximum height allowance of 35 feet. They're requesting 45.5 feet. Other zoning districts, industrial zoning districts, allow 5 to 6 stories with an overall height of 65 feet. So again, they're kind of got stuck with this more restrictive industrial zoning district. They still require all the same approvals for FAA and BCAD because of the airport. But the zoning district is really restrictive in terms of that height. The final variance request is for landscape screening for dumpsters. Several of their dumpster locations are internal to the site in their loading area where the trucks are. The code requires that dumpsters be landscaped and irrigation, and because of their location on the site internal where the loading areas are, that's really not feasible. So they're asking for a waiver from that requirement. Where the dumpster is located on the perimeter, they are landscaping it and irrigating it as required. We have variance criteria in our land development regulations. The applicant has addressed these criteria and provided written statement addressing how their requests are consistent with those criteria, and that's part of your application package. The next application is for exemptions to the industrial design standards. The first is with regards to window glazing. The applicant is requesting to provide 4.2% window glazing on the primary elevation and 4.6% window elevation on the secondary elevation. The code requires 25 and 10 respectively. Again, it is has heavy industrial neighbors where they can provide window. They have, but it is off the street. It's not going to be something that's really necessarily visible to the public. They did concentrate their treatments on the west elevation, which faces State Road 7, and I'll show you that elevation in a moment. The next exemption is regarding building color. The code allows for a maximum of 3, and they were proposing 4. And this is what the rendering of the property looks like. This is the elevation of the building that would be facing west towards State Road 7, and you can see the incorporation of windows. In addition to, this would be the pedestrian entrance to the office component. And this is the office side where the people who work there in the offices would park. The other side, the opposite side, is where the truck wells and the loading area occurs. They've also provided this landscape screening to help buffer that activity, so they could hide it as much as possible from State Road 7. Their industrial design standards also have criteria for granting the exemption, and those are identified on the screen. The applicants identified how their requests are consistent with those criteria. The special exception request is being requested to allow distribution use. The distribution use is a permitted use provided they're able to meet the 11 criteria for special exception, which the applicant has identified in their application package how their requests are consistent with those 11 criteria. Finally, the site plan is for the construction of 321,120 square feet of distribution office space. It is a 28-acre site, so it's a large building. The applicant has agreed to relocate a total of 9 trees that are currently on the site towards the entrance to help provide a more enhanced entry feature and just provide better presence on State Road 7. The applicant's also providing the 12-foot landscape screening that I showed you a moment ago, trying to hide those truck wells from the street view. This is It's a little hard to see just because the site is so large and it's difficult to fit everything on the screen, but you can see these are there are two buildings. Here's one, and here's the second. In the middle is the truck well, where also the dumpsters are being located. So around the perimeter of the site is where they're concentrating the landscaping, as well as the very narrow entrance that they have off of State Road 7. This item, the site plan did go through the Development Review Committee in February and again in March. And as you know, the DRC is made up of BSO Fire, Public Services, the city's landscape consultant, and the Planning Division. There are several DRC comments that are remaining to be addressed that the applicant is aware of and working towards addressing prior to the issuance of the permit. And if it's approved, they will be conditions of the resolution tonight. As a result, staff's recommending approval of the site plan with the outstanding DRC comments made as conditions of the approval, provided the variances, exception, and special exception are approved as well. If all those applications are approved, the site plan could be approved as well. I know the applicant's here for any questions, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Any question from the commission? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Discussion and possible action. Number one was the travel budget amendment. We already addressed that, correct?
Yes. We can
Okay.
move on.
Next item is beach vendors. Commissioner James.
To the chair.
Yes.
Por favor.
Commissioner Harris.
I just want to thank the developers for a really outstanding presentation and good information. And everybody out there, they're making it used to be the sludge plant. So now they're going to make a beautiful brand new warehouse facility there that's going to create jobs, employment, and they're doing a lot of good for our city. So all of you, thank you very much.
If it comes, and if it comes out the way that they've shown us, it's going to look really very nice. It's going to improve the area significantly. Okay, Commissioner James.
Yes. Beach vendors. I don't know how to go about doing it. I know we currently do not have it. I've been going to the beach just to view it, not to bask in the sun. I have a good enough tan, and and I don't see beach chairs and umbrellas available for us. And so I would like to entertain that option of getting options for us. I don't know. In the past, we did have a vendor. I'm not sure how it was done. If it was a fee that they gave us per month, I wouldn't say a commission because you can't keep an honest count of that. But I just wanted to know our options and if we were interested in just that portion of it. Because I know that as we grow and we want to be not the Boucher brothers, but to make sure that we are something that makes us unique. And currently, we can't even go to our beach and have a chair and an umbrella. And so I want to entertain that option.
I think that that's a fantastic idea. One of the things that I've been discussing with our Parks and Recreation Director is how do we take our beach, which is small and unique, and make it into the best beach that it could be? We're looking at everything from seaweed to coming forward with the discussion on the grill. But I think to be able to have a vendor, to be able to provide umbrellas for shade and beach chairs and lounges, I think it's fantastic. It makes our beach better. It gives us an opportunity for revenue, and it also employs people. So I think that this is a fantastic idea for us to be looking at during the budget process and be able to put an RFP or request for proposal. But I really think it's awesome.
Vice Mayor?
I definitely love this for the beach chairs and the umbrella, definitely. And then something I would love to see if it's possible, and I'm saying this not having any information on it, is if there's something unique that we could have out there that would draw people from Hollywood. So if you're going to Hollywood Beach, maybe it was because you want to go on the boardwalk, you want to go get ice cream, you want to I don't know, do all that. If you're going to Fort Lauderdale Beach, maybe because you're looking for more action. So if there would be something that one of the vendors could provide, that would be a unique service that we could provide them. Again, I don't know what's out there, but maybe you'll bring us back something interesting. But I think definitely everyone would be interested for it. You're shaking your head.
We can all bring back something
Okay,
unique.
we
I'm
can
not
all
that
bring back
creative. This is
something, but if
all
it's
of us
me,
bring
it's gonna
something
be
back.
like zip lining with giraffes, then, you know. So I don't assume you'll all like what I like, but definitely for umbrellas and beach chairs.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just wanted to get consensus on
It's
it,
fine.
to bring it to budget and see what the process is.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Next one is Southeast Drainage Project. Motion to reject all bids. City Attorney.
We had a range of bids for this project. This project has been taking for an extremely long time to develop. It's because it's extremely complex. The bids ranged from 6.8 million to almost 12 million, with 8 in the middle. We only had 6 million to spend. When the bids came back, we found that the bidder in the middle really has some very interesting ideas that we would be able to like to look at and put out as a rebid now and sort of refine what we're doing. So the bids are so varied that we really don't feel we can offer to you an award that we should go forward. So I'm asking you to do a motion to reject the bids and let us go back out with Dr. Bletcher and rebid this.
Any questions? Do you need
What,
consensus?
Motion.
I have a question.
Commissioner James?
What is the time frame on this? This has been
Well,
dragged out for
it
so
has
long.
It has been forever. We just restarted this in November, and we've just gotten the bids back. You know where we are with the Public Services Department with some difficulties in evaluating things. We'll be able to do this with Dr. Bletcher's help, and we'll start tomorrow on a new bid.
Okay. But do you foresee some type of a timetable? Or
I would like to get it out in the street within the next 45 days if we can.
Okay. Okay.
Do you need consensus?
I need a motion to reject all bids. Motion second.
Motion
and a roll
to
call.
reject all bids.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Commission comments. Commissioner Brandamari.
Yes. Through the mayor, let's see now. Mark LaFerrier, and I'm sorry, to the city manager. Did anything ever follow through on the fact of people doing work within their condos? Because I'm still getting calls about work being done and no permits are being in the windows of these jobs, and people are being, that's why I asked about the time on this, of what time they can start in the morning or on there. But-
Absolutely, Commissioner.
And then they're calling and saying, I paid for my permit, but my neighbor put in this and they didn't have to get a permit. They're shaking their heads. I'm getting phone calls. I don't know if any other commissioners are, but something's got to be done about this. Now, if code, I know code can't just knock on a door and walk in a house. I understand this. You know, your house is your castle and all that garbage. Only thing that I don't understand is if code does not see the permits in the window of the unit that's working, why can't that be questioned? That's what I want to know. The law, as I see here, that you sent to me regarding the rules and regulations on what jobs need permits and what don't, it specifies in what you sent to me that the permit is to be visible in a window. Well, if they're not visible and yet someone turns in somebody because I paid to do this in my condo, but they're getting away with it, why can't you question it?
Commissioner, through the mayor, before Mark speaks, we had a meeting. I want to bring everybody up to speed. A really good meeting with Commissioner Brandemart.
That's right.
And we had it also with our community development director. And one of the things that we discuss through our building fund is to be able to send letters to everybody so they can fully understand in English and in Spanish and whatever other language we need to send it, so everybody understands what are the expectations, what are the times, what are the rules and regulations. So that's something that's already Mark has drafted. And Mark, if you want to give the commissioner and everybody else an update in regards to this program.
Sure, we're taking a two-prong approach. Number one, when we heard of the concern, we increased enforcement. in the condominium and apartment areas. So what we're doing now is our code officers are driving through the parking lots of the apartment buildings and condominium buildings and looking for any kind of signs of construction activity, contractors' trucks, construction debris, and so forth, and then try and locate it inside the building to see. And then also running permit checks, coming back and running permit checks for those addresses. And I don't have a report tonight, but I will have a report soon. This is something we said we'd do over the course of the following 2 weeks. We're at about that time now. The second thing that we did is we prepared a letter, which I got you a copy of and the manager just spoke of. What we're doing is we're building a database so we have all the addresses of all those condominiums and apartment owners. That letter will go out both in Spanish and English and in French. So we're having those translated too. So we're in the process of doing it, but we're following up on any complaints that we have, and we are also checking to see if we can find evidence of non-permitted activity. And I'll be able to send a report to the manager's office probably this week.
I would like to know if any other commissioners have been receiving any calls.
I have.
I have.
Yeah.
An influx of them.
Well, it's wrong that we have law-abiding citizens that pay to put a permit for a storm door, and yet their neighbors are getting away with it now because your code enforcement, Mark, with all due respect, they don't know which one is the brake on their car because they keep driving and they keep driving right through. You know, sometimes you have to stop if you see, yeah, right, they don't stop. And if you see a car that's backed in backwards or a truck, you know that's the construction. Why? Because every one of the Meadowbrooks has a ruling. You cannot back in your car or your SUV or your truck. And contractors don't know about those rules, obviously, because they're backed in. But I've actually seen the code go through and not even care about it. And if they got out, they'd hear the noise. They wouldn't have to go look for the apartments.
Well, they're supposed to care about it because that's the direction that I gave them. So I'll follow up on that too.
Yeah, okay. We'll see what happens. Thanks, because I'll still call you.
Please do.
And another thing, you had commented in the manager's office about the fact that our people that try to do right, their names become public. And that's exactly the same complaints I'm getting about the complaint forms, city manager, that are online. Why would a person have to put their name down and get their neighbor 2 doors down so pissed off at him? It's unreal.
I think,
why do they have to do that? What happened to the tips anonymous like the police have?
You want to brief us in regards to anonymous complaints versus complaints with the name tied to it?
I sure will. Thank you, manager. The people can give their name if they're the complainant. If they wish to, they don't have to. If they send an email, then there is some public record.
Yeah.
If they call in, then they can just make it anonymous. They can send us a letter that's anonymous. We get it through various different means. We also get it via Code Red, too, and it can be anonymous. Sometimes people do give it. When we're in the field, our staff has been instructed, do not give the name of the complainant. If my staff is in the field and you're the property owner that was complained upon, and you ask who complained about me, the response is, I can't give that information. You have to file a public records request. So number one, if there's a public record about who complained, we have to let people know. That's the state law. But we do take anonymous complaints. Some cities don't take anonymous complaints, but we do. The problem, as I mentioned when we met the other day, is that when people do give an anonymous complaint, they never find out what the result was either.
No.
So they kind of go off into a mystery thinking that city didn't do anything. But in reality, we do. Yeah. And it's also always important to remember sort of the situation that we're involved with so much. So many good people that we contact in code enforcement, when we make them aware of a violation, they take care of it right away. But there are people that when we notify them, we have to bring them to the magistrate. The magistrate gives them 60 days. Then they come back to the magistrate and they get another 60 days, and they don't comply after a while. So sometimes people that complain might get a little frustrated. It's okay if you're anonymous. We'll follow up on it just the same, but you'll never know the results if you're anonymous. But it's not a requirement to give your name. And you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I'll double check all of our forms to make sure where if someone files a complaint, that it says optional underneath it.
Okay,
That might be a misunderstanding. I'll have to double check.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, Commissioner?
I'm the only one that complains about this.
Anything else, Commissioner Brandon?
Oh, no, that's it.
Commissioner Harris?
No real comments, but thanks everybody for staying with us tonight. I really appreciate seeing you all. Thank you so much.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I want to thank all of those who have served. I know Memorial Day was this past weekend, and I know both of our American Legion Post had ceremonies. I was able to attend Post 3 or 4, and I just want to thank everybody who serves for their service, and those who have gone. I want to remember them as well. That's number one. Number two, I just wrote this down. I do get a lot of cold calls. They don't email me because they don't want that public record, but I do get a lot of calls, not just about condos, but about other businesses doing work illegally. I get a lot of phone calls about the Winn-Dixie Plaza, and for some reason, I don't know what's going on with Meadowbrook. If they're gearing up their apartments or condos for an Airbnb facility, that I do get a lot of concerns about it. I actually get some residents that say codes comes out and doesn't do anything. And so I don't know what they're legally allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, and if that's why the residents are feeling like nothing is being done. So I just wanted to quickly speak on that. I wanted to make sure that, because we've been receiving emails about this housing forum, I want to make sure that everything is set in stone. I'm kind of disappointed in the lack of involvement that this commission has had with this housing forum. I've looked at all of the documents. I've requested all of the documents. I'm not sure if I'm, in all honesty, going to a housing forum or a campaign event at this point, and I don't know if I am going to attend or if I really want to attend. I mean, we had consensus on what an agenda is, and there is possibility of changes even after that. And I wasn't able to really, I didn't have invitations to go and give out to people. I don't know if the rest of the commission had it. The invitations weren't even signed by the mayor. It was signed by Commissioner Harris, and I just don't like the look of it. I don't like that it looks political. I don't like that it looks like something leading up into a campaign. And if this was for the community as well as our business people, we should have had prominent people from the community in those areas involved in this forum as well, so they can understand things that are coming towards them. And so, I mean, I'm going to flip a coin, but I definitely don't appreciate how everything went down as far as this housing forum. And just wanted to make sure that everyone knows about Code Red. I'm sure it was in our manager's report, and I see flyers out there and everywhere else. And so I'm looking forward to seeing everyone on June the 1st. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, hurricane. Yeah, season coming up. So I just wanted to remind everyone, May 31st through June 6th, you can refill your bug out bags or whatever you use for your hurricane preparedness. It's the tax holiday season for all those kinds of material. Yeah, your flashlights, your batteries, your MREs, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what kind of stuff you like to get, but a lot of that will be tax-free, and so it's a really great time to take advantage of it before before June 1st. Aside from that, everyone, thanks for coming out, and that's it.
I have a couple of things real quick. I promise I will not be long. First of all, City Manager, I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder. I'd like to welcome our new Assistant City Manager, Candido Sosa Cruz, who today is his first day. So it's a very long day. I know he's been here since early this morning, so he's right up front. So if anybody hasn't met him, please feel free to say hello to him. Couple of things. I know that we're having an update next meeting on the Dania Beach Grill. That's correct. Okay. And I want to make sure that included in that update, we talk about temporary solutions and things that we can do in the meantime in order to support the people that were going to the grill, so that whatever plans we end up with, that there is some sort of solution or some suggestions for things that we can do for people that miss the grill, basically. So I just wanted to put that out there. I feel I need to address the comments that Commissioner James made. Only that I'm not quite sure what you're talking about as far as the way that it's been handled, because my understanding was this was something that Commissioner Harris was working on with Josh Gapaton to set up the housing forum. So I wasn't involved in the invitations. My understanding was Commissioner Harris was handling this for the most part. I know that we did get some emails from Director Williams from the CRA about the agenda and things like that, but I'm not having the same experience that you were having with it, so I'm just not quite sure. No, I don't. That's okay. All right. One last thing that I just want to tell people about, which I think is a potential for some very good news in the future. Earlier this month, I set up a meeting for... Okay, can I finish? Thanks. Earlier this month, I set up a meeting for myself, the city manager, and our director of parks and recreation with the Miami Dolphins. And we went and had this meeting just a couple weeks ago, and it was very productive. Part of the meeting was to discuss potential things for the Super Bowl and things that they might be able to do to help us out. Obviously, the NFL is really the one handling all that, but there are some things that they may be able to do to help us with some events, maybe get us some players to come to different things, that sort of thing. But the bigger thing that actually came out of this meeting is that we are developing a relationship with the Miami Dolphins, and that this is something that Eric Brown is going to continue. He's tasked through the city manager to continue this relationship and basically try to set some things up for some of our kids and some programs that we might be able to establish for them in the future. And we wanted to not just make this a thing for this year, but an ongoing relationship that goes on over the next for however long we can, and continue this in the future. There'll be more to come on it right now. I know that Eric is working on this. And nothing's set in stone at this point, but I think it was a really productive meeting, and I think it definitely has the potential to do some good things for our kids in the city in the future. And with that, that's all I have. Appointments. Commissioner James, do you have anybody for airport advisory?
No. Eileen, you want it? No? Okay. No.
No? I am holding off on my appointment for Dania Beach Housing Authority tonight. Education Advisory Board, Vice Mayor Odman.
Manjikar.
Can't hear.
Manjikar Jagrup.
Awesome.
It's a real person. And Manjikar would like to be on the, what did I have?
Education Advisory Board.
Yes, she does. She wants to be on that. Win. I'll pass it on down to Tom. Thank you so much.
Okay. And Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs. I have somebody, but I just want to confirm with her that she's going to be able to do it. She was checking on a couple of things. Sure, just one second. Commissioner Brandamari, did you have something else?
I want to ask you something. This airport thing, this is what's still on my mind, really it is. This airport and this runway thing, it's still bothering me. We still have the Airport Advisory Board because obviously we're looking for somebody. Did we cut back on the amount of people on that board? Does anybody know if we cut back on them?
City Clerk?
Yes. That board was reduced from 15 to 10 members in July 2017.
Don't they need an odd number?
Well, no, I think maybe we should reach out to Malaluka, to someone out there that's in charge. It usually is this Ray Sandler person, and ask her, is she comfortable with that amount? Because she's the most active in it anyway, or has been. I don't know if she still is. Is she comfortable with the amount reduced to 10?
Take mine
It
off.
should be even less because of the reason why you can get more to a decision. Because I've noticed that the bigger the boards, the worse it is getting everybody on board. What would be a good number for you? I'd like to know.
5 or
6. I think this board
Don't you
should
need an
go
odd number?
and think
Yeah,
about.
you don't want an even
I think
number.
you want an
Well, we
odd
already have
number,
10.
right? No, 7.
know.
That's
That
right.
makes sense.
I think we should go with a recommendation from her and do the 7 and drop it down. I really do.
Commissioner James?
Yes, until we get to that, because you'll have to choose who you want to take off. You could just take mine off, and then we'll be at 9, and that's an odd number. And I think, part of it is off until you all can look and see
That's a
who you
good
all
idea.
wanna-
I like that even
That's
better
fine.
yet.
I think that's
Yeah,
fine. Do we need a
That's all
motion?
right.
I can leave it off the agenda if that's what you want. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
How is that, Mayor?
That's
all
fine
right?
with me.
Yeah, me
Do we,
too.
do we need a consensus? Do we need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and that's, well, okay, never mind. All right, administrative report, city manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we're getting into the real busy season. Not that we haven't been busy already, but we're partnering with the Chamber of Commerce for this Saturday's Hurricane Expo from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So everyone, please come out. It's going to be very, very comprehensive and very, very exciting. June 10th, we have at 5:30 the workshop where we're going to discuss the short-term rentals. Airbnb, so extremely important for everybody to be here for that meeting, and it starts at 5:30 p.m. June 10th. On June 11th, which is the commission meeting, we're going to be bringing you the update on the Dania Beach Grill or your options. Very exciting meeting as well. We're going to be embarking not on one, but on 2 summer camps this year. We usually have our summer camp at Frost Park. We're going to have it this year at Frost Park and at C.W. Thomas Park. We're gearing up the beach, gearing up our parks for a really, really good and safe summer. So very grateful to the team that's working on that. On May 16, we had the final walkthrough of the beach. Not only did we get the beach renourishment project completed, but we were able to get an extension on the project, and we were able to get additional sand. And I want to be able to thank all involved that really helped us to make that happen. We've been unsuccessful in regards to setting up meetings with our school board representative. We've had 3 cancellations, and I want to put that on the record because I don't find that acceptable, and I believe that you all don't find that acceptable either. So we've moved on. We have a meeting scheduled June 26th with our Superintendent Runcie, to discuss the situation at Olson Middle School, and we'll be updating you on that in regards to that meeting has already been confirmed. Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, we have brought in our new Assistant City Manager, and he brings a wealth of knowledge and information. But Commissioner Brandimart, I also wanted you to know that he has the highest level of code certification that we can get. So we're going to be really supporting our code efforts, and I knew that you're very happy with that. So he's got the very highest level that we can get for that. So we're moving forward with the last 3 months of the year. We're also in interviewing mode for the Director of Public Services and the Deputy Director of Public Services. So we're really looking forward to strengthen this amazing team that we have in place. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
City Attorney?
Nothing to add tonight.
City Clerk?
Upcoming meetings, as City Manager Garcia mentioned, Monday, June 10 at 5:30 p.m. is the workshop on vacation rentals. And then Tuesday, June 11th at 5:30 p.m. is the CRA board meeting, followed by a regular City Commission meeting at 7 p.m. That's all I
I
have.
have one comment about the vacation rental workshop.
Commissioner James?
Is this going to be another workshop where the residents cannot speak? I want to make sure this is because we intended for this workshop to be so we can hear from them and their experiences to help us.
If I may, through the mayor?
Yes, go
Through the
ahead.
chair. Yes, absolutely, Commissioner James. This is an open workshop for all our residents to express their concerns and for us to be able to answer all their concerns with all the facts and all the rules and regulations.
And do we have that person that we said we needed?
Yes,
via
ma'am.
phone? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Straight from Seattle.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, with that, we're adjourned.